Hey Jimmy, can you hear us? Hey Jimmy, can you hear us? Hey Jimmy, are you there? Is the volume coming through the thing? Like if you just click on the little test audio for the computer? Or well it says it's muted again. You can hear it? Test, test, one, two, test.
snowy drive back, Russell?
Just the first 2 hours.
Good morning, sir.
Morning. How are you? Is this a
How are you?
Yeah, what are you saying?
I don't see any blood on it.
Oh, yeah, filming this morning.
Where'd y'all go?
Oh.
Where?
Down on the river in our pond.
Good morning. How are you?
Well, down on the old Ludolph farm.
Danny.
Yeah, that's where I used to kill them. That's where I killed my first mallard.
Brian, how are you, sir?
Jimmy on my microphone. Okay, works for me.
He's gone home.
Thank you. Thank you, man. We can check.
So all of our doctor bus is going to show up here, right?
Well, what I'm sure
Right.
Let's see how we're doing on time. 2 minutes. Up, let's go. You all set? Yep, looks like microphones are up. I don't think this mic is up. How about now? You got it? You got audio? Good, let's go. Well, Merry Christmas, everybody. We got a big agenda today. We've started out with a public hearing. I'm wondering if we've got anybody that wanted to sign up for the public hearing with Mr. DeBose. If not, just we'll work it in later on. But the public hearing has to do with, let's see, a FELO arrangement on economic development. So with that, Mr. DeBose. Okay, great. Okay.
Are the mics on?
He says we got audio. We don't have audio. I got it now. How about now? Check it out.
Check.
Yep, we got you. Loud and clear. Okay. I need to explain up front before I open the session that why we're here today, and we are required as a council to have one meeting a month. And on the last meeting scheduled on Tuesday, we're unable to get a quorum. And today you can see that we're about there. And next week, and being Holy Week, it just gets harder and harder. And so I thank you all for your flexibility in joining us today. And with that, we'll move ahead. I will make a notice to you that at the appropriate point in the proceeding, we're going to amend the agenda to put the appropriate date on the top because it still reflects a Tuesday meeting. With that, we have a quorum. Mr. Jones is on the phone. And Mr. Tomlinson is airborne right now, and we'll call when he lands in Florida. But I would like to begin, before I even open the session, with a moment of silence. We lost some great people. Among others, Willie Mickle. Danny lost his brother, and we lost Judge Edwards, probably the longest-serving employee of the county. And we lost 4 young men to fentanyl, which is a tragedy beyond belief. So can you join me in a moment of silence, please? Amen.
Amen.
And may our Christmas have no such loss again. With that, we're called to order. We have a quorum of 5 people with 4 present in accordance with the law. And with that, it's a great day in Kershaw County, All-American County. Tinsel Trail has begun. Veterans Park is maxed out every night. We've had parades and one more to go in Boykin on Sunday for the first time in 3 years. Got a great agenda to finally fix sewer. We've got 2 important economic development items. We're going to hear about a thoroughly balanced budget. We're going to hear from the Equine Center. And my personal favorite, we have DNR here for black bass fishermen. So with that, please stand and join me in prayer and Pledge of Allegiance. Come, Holy Spirit. We remember the words of the good book that says, "Blessed is the nation whose God is the Lord." With that, may He shine on us in this meeting and in the year to come, and especially during the Christmas season to celebrate the birth of His Son, and keep us all safe in this time and in the new year. All this we ask in the name of our Son, our Savior, of your Son, our Savior, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much indeed. We are now moving to public comments, and with that, I ask Mr. DeBose to tell us what we have.
Mr. Chairman, 5 people signed up for comment, public comment.
Yeah.
The first person signed up is Ted Davis.
All right, Commander Ted Davis from the American Legion. We'll allot, 3 minutes? Are you going to keep the time for us? 3 minutes. 5 minutes.
6 of them.
5 minutes. Thank you very much. And if you'll keep the time, go right ahead. Mr. Davis.
Mr. Chairman, members of council, thank you for having us here today. We're grateful for the opportunity to pose questions. My name is Ted Davis, and I'm the commander of American Legion Post 17 in Camden. First, we'd like to thank the Kershaw County Parks and Recreation Commission for managing the Wateree Veterans Park. With the lights and exhibits on display from local schools and area merchants, the park looks magnificent. Last month's meeting, Woodward Park was a focal point concerning upgrades. We recognize that Woodward Park is a valuable resource and most deserving of upgrades. However, it is our understanding that Wateree Veterans Park was never mentioned. An article in the Camden Chronicle ran last month addressing parks in the county. We were unable to see anywhere in the article where the Wateree Veterans Park was mentioned. Through the efforts of Senator Gustafson, a grant of $200,000 was secured for further development of Wateree Veterans Park. Veterans asked us quite often what became of that money. We were under the impression that it was to be used to complete the walking track started in Phase 1 and get a good start on Phase 2. Based on our understanding of the grant proceeds, veterans of this county expect it to be completed. We believe there is a need for a comprehensive countywide parks plan that is all-inclusive.
Thank
Thank you for your time.
you very much, Ted. Appreciate it. Thank you. Can you put up on the screen the rules for the public hearings, guidelines, public comment guidelines? Yeah, that's it.
Mr. Chairman,
Yeah, go ahead.
do we have Mr. Jones on?
Yes, we do. Yes, we do.
Mr. Jones, can you hear us?
Barely.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
We got you.
Thank you, Russell. Thank you, Russell.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, yeah. I thought we already established that. Very good. With that, we go ahead to the next one, Mr. DeBose.
The second person that signed up is Preston Chrisman.
Yeah, okay, so Preston doesn't need to come up. Thank you.
The third person that signed up is Mary Brandenberger.
Yes, ma'am. Good morning. Can you bring the mic down so everybody can hear you?
Okay. Better?
Yeah, I hope so.
Okay. Just quick comment. I don't know if the county council is aware, but the city council has changed their meeting times starting in January to 5:30 on Tuesdays. I'm wondering if the county council is going to change their time so that people can attend both meetings.
Thank you very much. We'll make a note of that and pass it on. Mr. DeBose.
The fourth person signed up is Jeff Maddox.
Mr. Maddox.
Good morning, guys. I'm not worried about what you guys are going to do today. I think those deals are done. The lines have been drawn. I'm here to talk about my friend Mary. Mary Sigler has been there for me for years and years and years. And she's always had a smile on her face, always been helpful. I so much appreciate everything that she does. She's just incredible the way she's so open and caring, and it just amazes me how good a person that we have in our council. Mary, I love you, and I'll miss you. And whoever's taking over, you got some big shoes to fill. Thank you. Thanks, guys.
Thank you very much indeed. Mr. DeBose.
And the last person that signed up is Matthew Hutchinson.
Very good.
Thank you, sir. I wish I would have let Jeff go last. I'm here to speak out against this meeting today at 10 a.m. There is nothing on the schedule for these chambers this afternoon, this evening. I've attempted to find out through various channels, but I don't think this chamber's booked this evening, if that's correct. So I don't know why the 10 a.m. meeting, unless you're trying to hide something or run from somebody who might be here to speak out against you. Also, the fact that this meeting was canceled on Tuesday due to not having a quorum is absolutely shameful. Scheduling vacations while you're a council member should be done with the schedule in mind. The people's business has to be done, so you should be here when the meeting's here. I think if my councilmen were to do the same thing, I'd be looking for a new councilman next time the election comes around. As far as the sewer debt goes, y'all are going to pass it today, and we're going to take out a loan from the state, $2.7-something million. Even though you've already been charging people the new fees, the user fee, for the last 2 years, and you could probably save up for a couple years to pay cash. You have the ARPA money, which could pay cash for this loan. You could buy new radios for the firefighters and EMTs in this county. You could even buy the new fire trucks that we're going to get money from the state for today. You could fund the new station up in Cassett, which would really is your job, is for the protection of the citizens. But instead, you're going to build a pump station and then put money back into the account and pay interest on it, which is completely asinine to me. I don't run my household budget that way. I don't know anybody else who does. To finish up, I had a gift for Julian Burns on your last meeting. I'm sure you know General Smedley Butler. He was a 2-time recipient of the Medal of Honor. He had a field grade commission to lieutenant and retired as a brigadier general. He wrote a pamphlet named "War is a Racket," and he was speaking out against the military-industrial complex before Eisenhower gave his famous speech and before we've been in perpetual war. So, Mr. Burns, I bid you farewell. I wish you good luck in your next war, and I hope you have a good profit from selling your weapons for our proxy warriors over in Ukraine. I hope you and your fellow war pimps make a lot of money off the blood of American soldiers, and I'll leave this with Mr. Templer. He can give that to you. I hope you read it and meditate on it and change your ways. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. DeBose.
That concludes the sign-up list.
And that concludes public comments. We move now to a public hearing in regards to an ordinance authorizing the execution and delivery of a fee in lieu by and between Kershaw County and Orion Performance Compounds, a South Carolina corporation, and 15 Mesa Lane, South Carolina limited liability company with respect to certain economic development property in the county. With that, I'll open the public hearing. Mr. DeBose.
One person signed up, Matthew Hutchinson.
Mr. Hutchinson. Now, going through the public hearing guidelines, I'll just review those briefly. They're up on the board, I hope. Yes, there they are. Prior to the hearing, we have to publish a sign-up list, which we've done. And then when the public hearing is open, the persons be notified, and persons will speak in the order in which they signed up. Each person can speak a maximum of 10 minutes. And, of course, the usual matters of decorum apply. Go ahead, Mr. Hutchinson.
Thank you. I'm here to speak out against the policy of a fee in lieu of taxes in general. As a small business owner myself, I think the last thing I would do would go to the government and ask for money or a break. This company was established here in South Carolina. I think it was incorporated in 2021. I've been looking and trying to find out some information about this company. It was a little hard to find. They're owned by another group, owned by another group, and that sort of stuff. That's kind of how business is done, I guess, these days with multi-million-dollar corporations. I'm glad the building, that empty building, is getting filled up with somebody. It's been sitting up there, bought and paid for by the tax dollars of Kershaw County citizens. I'm glad somebody bought it and moved in. Hopefully they hire people from Kershaw County, but there's no telling with that. I mean, they probably need some qualified individuals coming from somewhere else. This ties in with my last comment about war as a racket. I think from what I found, one of their biggest customers is the U.S. government for polymers and frames for weapons. So this is pretty ironic that they are the ones who came here to Kershaw County, signed this deal with the boondoggle up on the hill. I'm just excited about the new council coming in. Hopefully we'll have a change of policy on the fee in lieu of taxes, that we will stop selling ourselves out and keep our county rural, as all of us love it, us citizens. We want it to stay rural, so thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. DeBose?
That concludes the sign-up list for the public hearing.
And I'll wait to see if there are any others coming forward. Since there are none, we'll move to close the public hearing and move to an adoption of the agenda. And as I said at the start, we're going to need to amend this agenda slightly to make a scrivener's error, which needs to change the date and time to today. With that, can we have a motion to adopt the agenda?
Make a motion we approve the agenda, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Tucker, a second?
Second.
Second, Mr. Gardner. With that, can we have a motion
Mr.
to
Chairman.
amend?
Before we take that vote, I'd like to make the amendment to the agenda.
Very good. And what would that be?
Make the amendment that the date reflects December the 15th at 10 a.m.
Very good. Can we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Mr. Tucker?
None.
Mr. Jones?
I have an amendment I want to make to the agenda.
All right. Go ahead, Mr. Jones.
Okay, I would like to make the motion to remove from the agenda new business number 1, allocations of funds in support of the battlefield. Number 2, boards and commission appointments. Number 3, amend the council meeting schedule to include only meetings in January and February, when we talk about that, for the second and fourth Tuesdays. That would be my amendment.
So just to restate and see if we get a second, you want to delete item number 1, allocation of funds in support of the honored dead on the battlefield. Item number 2, boards and commissions appointments. Item number 3, county council meeting schedule. Is that correct?
In that amendment, Mr. Chairman, with all due respect, it is to include only scheduling the meetings for January and February.
For meetings only in January and February.
And if I can get a second, I'll be glad to explain all this, if I can get a second.
All right. Can we get a second?
I'll second it.
Mr. Brazel. Okay, Mr. Jones, please explain.
Thank you, Mr. Brazel, for the second, at least letting me get on the floor to explain this. Into my discussion, for my justification, as to the battlefield funds, there's no proposal in the agenda as the source of where the money's coming from. We can take this up in January, and we can readdress it at that time and find the source of where the money's going to come from. And because I truly believe that this council spends money with no transparency, and I support the concept of the request, but not the timing of the soldiers. And I will, as I said, I'll put it on the next agenda with the source of funds, and hopefully might be able to support it. Boards and commissions, that should be handled by the new council guys. it needs to be addressed and appointed not by this council. This is the last meeting, and that's just showing respect. Schedule, let the new council members address setting their schedules for next year. We can certainly make the motion to schedule a meeting in January and maybe February, 2 meetings in January, February, but let the new council come in and set their plans for next year. And also the audit report, it can wait and should wait till the new council comes in, and there's no reason to do it now. So those are my justifications as to why we should do that. The chairman is correct. We are under home rule supposed to have one meeting a month, but we can hold that one meeting a month, open it up, give our best wishes, and say goodbye, and let the new council come in and do their business.
Other discussion, Mr. Brazel.
I certainly agree with a portion of that. The new council is going to have to be responsible for where the money comes from for the allocation of funds for the honored dead, which I'm not sure the amount of money in total that they're going to need, but we'd definitely like to discuss that. But I think the guys who are going to be carrying the water next year should get the opportunity to appropriate it and to make sure that the county's secure enough to be able to do that, as well as take on all the other burdens and tasks that we have. As far as boards and commissions, I think that also should wait. And I think for this year's council to set the meetings for us for next year, I think that all should wait. And I think we've got other things on the agenda that need to be finished up in old business. I have no issues with any of the old business. Those are my comments, and I suppose we can put it to a vote.
Thank you. Other discussion?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman.
No, Mr. Tucker.
I just want to say that as I duly understand Mr. Jones's motion and Mr. Brazel's second, and that some of you guys are going off the end of this month, the people that did vote for you, which was the majority that put you in this office, did not put you in this office to govern for 3 years and 11 months. We must continue the people's business as this agenda is outlined. And anything the new council, and I will be a part of that come January, wants to change, they have the authority to change. Wherever they want to do something totally different, add to it, amend it, that is their right to do. But to stop governing just because you're in your last weeks of as an elected official is not what you signed up for, and I truly believe in that. This is not Washington, D.C., where you are lame ducks. We're closest to the people as you can get here by being county officials and city officials and local elected folks. So for those reasons, I will not support this amendment this morning.
Any other discussion?
Yes.
Mr. Jones, any final discussion before we go to a vote?
Did y'all hear me?
Yes.
Totally. Sammy makes a little bit of sense, but not a whole lot on that comment you just said. You know, guys, come on. This is absolutely absurd to have these things on the agenda for the last meeting. There's no reason why we can't wait till the first meeting in January when the new council comes on board. You don't even have a source of where the funding is coming from for the battlefield soldiers. You know, the boards and commissions, this new council should be making them because they're going to be living. Listen, folks, I don't mean no ugliness by this, but the fact is the people have voted down y'all's policy. The majority of people have spoken. And I'm just saying, out of respect for the new folks coming in, I think this is absurd to have this meeting today with all of this on the agenda. And I stand by my position. I'm going to vote against this agenda.
Very good. Other discussion? All right, we have 2 amendments. We'll start on the first one to the agenda. That's Mr. Jones' amendment to delete the audit and items 1, 2, and 3 in the new business. All those in favor signify. Mr. Jones, how do you vote?
I vote yes, delete it.
Others signify by raising your hand. and we have one other. And and that's Mr. Brazel. Those opposed to that amendment signify by raising your hand. And the amendment fails. We move to the first amendment, which is to change the date and time to today at 10.
On my motion, my amendment, what was the vote? I couldn't hear you.
Yeah, it was 3-2, Mr. Gardner, Mr. Tucker, and Mr. Burns in opposition. Now we move now to, as I said, to the First Amendment, which is to change the date and time group of the amendment. I'm sorry?
I didn't hear you. If you would stop talking long enough to let me get my clarification, please, sir.
Go ahead.
It's hard to hear over this telephone, and you're moving so darn quickly. Just please bear with me. I don't mean to be ugly this morning, but I want a fair shot at this as well. And I want to know who voted with my amendment.
I will recite. Voted for your amendment was you and Mr. Brazel. Those against was Mr. Burns, Mr. Gardner, and Mr. Tucker.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
And Ms. Mary has that duly recorded. With that, we move to the First Amendment, which is Mr. Tucker's to change the date and time to today at 10. And let's move to a vote on that, starting with you, Jimmy.
I vote no.
Okay. And all those here present, how do you vote? All those in favor signify. And the agenda is amended accordingly. We move now to the final vote, to vote on the amendment agenda as amended. All those in favor signify. Mr. Jones first.
No.
All those in favor signify by raising your hand. The amendment, Mr. Burns, Mr. Tucker, and Mr. Gardner. Those opposed, Mr. Brazel. So we have 2 to 3 in favor. Jimmy, did you get that count?
I did. Thank you.
All right, very good. And thank you for the opportunity to get back to you. We hope you're feeling better, and especially Mara. We move now to the next item on the agenda, which is a proclamation from Mr. Mike Mathis. It's at page 4. It's at Annex A in your agenda, and I will read it and then take a motion. A proclamation in honor of Mike Mathis' decades of service in equestrian sports in Kershaw County. Whereas Kershaw County is horse country and noted nationally for its culture and love of horses, and embrace Vision 2030's goal to leverage the equine industry for economic development and the preservation, protection, and promotion of horses, their training, stabling, and care, and thereby enhancing the richness of the culture and the sport for citizens and visitors alike. Whereas Kershaw County Council has invested in and supported the equine culture and businesses through every facet of the industry, most notably the Equine Park and associated events, and thereby bringing millions in tourism revenue, sales of horses, and of horse tack and equipment, enhancing property value, and maintain the legacy of the horse in the county for future generations. Whereas Mike Mathis has served for over 13 years as director of the Equine Park and established Kershaw County as the premier equine showplace of the Midlands, and with the SCE board, I believe they're present here today, enhanced its appeal over the entire state, drawing visitors from Georgia, North Carolina, Tennessee, and nationwide. He has been tireless, giving of weekends and weekdays for 40 shows a year, with hundreds of horses per show and thousands of riders, trainers, and owners. Whereas upon his arrival in 2010, he renovated the park to bring it back to a functional equestrian center, working with council and the board to make it self-sustaining. Mike has overseen, number one, new footing in all rings and incentives and enhancements that bring enthusiasts from all over the Southeast. Number two, new state-of-the-art covered arena. Number three, permanent restrooms at the new rings and sheds for ringside shade. Number four, grading and prep work for the 13 adjacent acres of land to become a trailer RV park. Whereas Mr. Mathis has mastered the needs of breeds, exhibitors, and associations to include, a long list follows, quarter horses, paints, hunter jumpers, reiners, dressage, western, rodeo, and gaited horses. Throughout, he has worked for some 40 shows a year and leaving only a few weekends to himself. Whereas he also leads our emergency preparedness at the facility during natural disasters as to keep the park moving with the horse shows while accommodating evacuees as needed. Therefore, be it known, Kershaw County and the council join with the entire equestrian community and the people of Kershaw County in congratulating Mike Mathis for exceptional service above and beyond his duties in making the county the irreplaceable, unmatched home for horse lovers in the Southeast. And we wish him continued success as a grandfather and others in the years to come. Can we have a motion to approve?
Make a motion that we approve, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Tucker, a second
Second.
from Mr. Gardner. Any discussion? Sammy?
Just wanted to say thank you, Mr. Mathis, for your service and your dedication here in Kershaw County. And of course, the citizens are going to be the beneficiaries as these things continue to grow. Thank you.
Mr. Jones?
Just say congratulations to Mr. Mathis. We appreciate what you've done serving our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Other comments?
Just,
Mr. Gardner?
Congratulations. I mean, you heard all the list of things that he's done. Job well done. We appreciate it. Thank you very much.
And is the board here today? Oh, there they are.
Back there.
Can the boards just stand up for a minute? Very good. We're going to ask you to come up for pictures, but I presume that you agree with this award. With that, we move to a vote. Thank you very much for coming. Mr. Jones, how do you vote?
Oh, yes.
And all others signify, and it's unanimous, Mary. Mike and the board, can you all come up, please?
Just wanted to thank the council.
This is Cindy Prestige, please, from the board.
Vice Chairman, Chairman Tamara Flynn could not be here today, but just want to thank council members for this opportunity and this acknowledgement of Mike Mathis. He has done an absolutely amazing job for the park and for the county. I mean, as Chairman Burns has spoken, it brings a lot of people in here, a lot of tourism dollars come in with the park. You know, 40 horse shows a year, and they can average anywhere from 150 to 250 horses, and more people than that come in with each horse. It's probably 4 or 5 per horse. And that may be a little bit off, but just thank you for this opportunity to be here, and wanted to introduce Tanya Schnoider. She is our new replacement.
Connie, would you stand up?
And we're ecstatic. She comes with
Much better looking than Mike.
She comes with a lot of enthusiasm and a lot of great ideas, and we just look to push the park forward and do even more for the county and everything.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
And for the new director, Willkommen. Thank you. And Frohe Weihnachtsfest. Thank you very much. She's really quite an expert, and you get to know her. You need to ask her what her qualifications are. They are very impressive. Mike, Godspeed, my friend. With that, we move to public presentations. Item number 1 is South Carolina DNR Bass Survey results. If y'all would come up, it requires no vote. And I want to thank you for coming. The Preston Chrisman will lead off, but at the request that I made back in the winter last year, and collaborated in by my friend Russell Brazel and Ben Connell, they went out and did what I think is shock surveys. It sounds awesome, but it's really quite humane, if fish can be called humane. And we went out on the lake, and we've asked for an analysis why some of my friends are not catching any bass. And so this is about the Wateree Lake. Go ahead. Nice to have you here, Preston. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you to the council for inviting us. Do you have the slides? Perfect. Thank you. As he said,
Is Michael Williams here, by the way? Yep, Michael has been helping me and Russell and Ben understand this language we're about to receive. Go ahead, sir.
Yes, I will try to make it as plain as I can, but if anyone has questions, feel free to ask. But as mentioned, my name's Preston Chrisman. I'm a fisheries biologist with the South Carolina DNR out of the Rock Hill office. We are in Region 2, which encompasses York, Chester, and Fairfield counties, all the way over to Horry County, that big band across the top of the state. This morning I'll be going over the results from our long-term monitoring of the largemouth bass population at Lake Wateree, and I want to again thank the members of the council for inviting us here to present these results. Next slide, please. Here's the outline of the presentation I'll be working through really quickly. I'll first go over the concerns that were raised to DNR about the fishing at Lake Wateree, and then move into the data that I analyzed, what those results were, and then finally the significance of any trends that we observed. We have heard reports from anglers that have expressed concerns over declining fishing for largemouth bass at Lake Wateree over the past few years. This has surprised us, as our electrofishing results from Lake Wateree have always been well above other lakes in the surrounding area, both in terms of high numbers of fish as well as very good average size. When comparing the lake to nearby lakes in our region, lakes like Lake Wiley, Fishing Creek Lake, Lake Robinson, and Lake Monticello, Lake Wateree has long had the highest quality largemouth bass population in Region 2. However, due to the rising number of concerned anglers, Kershaw County Council Chairman Julian Burns called and requested a meeting in early 2022 to address these angler concerns and see what, if any, steps could be taken to improve the quality of bass fishing at Lake Wateree. To prepare for that meeting with the Kershaw County Council members, next slide, please. We wanted to examine our long-term monitoring data of the largemouth bass population at the lake to see if any declining trends could be observed using a wide range of key population characteristics. So I went to work compiling data from SCDNR spring electrofishing samples as far back as I could find. I was able to locate electrofishing data from Lake Wateree as far back as 1984. I combined all of these data sets into a single file and ran it through a statistics program to generate all of the population metrics that we wanted to examine. We went over this data with the council members at that meeting earlier this year. Additionally, Lake Wateree was on our sampling schedule for this year, so I have since added the results from 2022 to this master file, and that is the data set I'll be sharing with you this morning. In these pictures, you can see our one of our electrofishing boats. You can see the generator near me and back at the driver's seat. This generator puts electrical current into the water through those two booms that hang off the front of the boat. Fish that come, creating an electrical field. Fish that come into the electrical field get stunned and their muscles seize up, causing them to float to the surface like you can see in the second picture. We scoop the fish up in our dip nets. They quickly recover in our live well until we finish our sampling run. This electrofishing method is how all of the fish data were collected that we will be going over next. Here are the years of spring electrofishing data I was able to collect. No need to delve too deeply into this table since it is so difficult to read. I just put it here mainly to show you how many years of data I've managed to find, which ended up being 27 years of data across a 38-year period that spanned from 1984 to 2022. Starting in 2005, the standard sampling protocol changed, and since that time, we sample Lake Wateree for 3 years in a row, then take 2 years off, and then return for another 3 years of sampling. So we will also be on Lake Wateree again in the spring 2023 before the 2-year off period sets in for 2024 and 2025. I could only locate the amount of time that was spent electrofishing for data sets back to 1999. So this population metric only looks at these data sets from 99 to 2022. This chart here shows the number of largemouth bass that we collected per the hour of electrofishing time. These numbers are used to get an idea of the number and density of fish in a water body and can be used to monitor trends over time, like we are doing here, or to compare different water bodies to each other. The red dashed line is the average catch rate for all samples from 99 to 2022, which is right at 70 bass per hour spent electrofishing. So you can see that results from 2021 and 2022 did decline from the cluster that was in 2016 to 2018, but still remained above the lake average over this time frame. For comparison purposes, the catch rate at Fishing Creek Lake was only 42 bass per hour. At Lake Robinson, it was 50 bass per hour in 2022. At the world-renowned Santee Cooper Lakes, the average catch rate was only 53 bass per hour over the past 6 years, so Wateree's catch rates were drastically higher than nearby reservoirs for 2022, even more than the Santee Cooper Lakes.
So you're not saying a good fisherman will catch 78 bass an hour?
No, sir.
Good, all right, got it.
Not unless they are cheating like we do. So this potentially indicates higher largemouth bass abundance at Lake Wateree. So the numbers seem to remain high. Next slide, please. This collection of charts is from a publication that DNR put out some years ago that compared the bass populations across the state using results from 1997 to 2005. Even back then, Wateree, located in the center box, still produced higher catch rates than all other reservoirs in the entire state. So looking at these results and the results from the previous slide, it would appear that there has always been and still are an above average number of largemouth bass in the lake. This next chart shows the average total length of largemouth bass that were collected from 1984 to 2022. Again, you see a decline in 2021 and 2022 samples from that highest cluster that we saw in 2016 to 2018. Meaning the fish were, on average, a little bit shorter. But again, average total length still falls within that normal range that we have seen throughout this time. The total average across all years was 12.9 inches, so the results from 2022 were actually still above the long-term average. This next series of charts shows how many largemouth bass were in each inch group. I broke the full data set into a group of smaller periods to see if the distribution of lengths changed over time at all. You can see that most of the distributions look pretty similar, with the peaks centered around the 12 to 15 inch length groups, except that the peak was a little higher for the 2011 to 2013 and the 2016 to 2018 periods, which were more in the 14 to 16 inch length groups. So once again, it looks like a small decline in the proportion of fish in the 14 to 16 inch length groups for 2021 and 2022. But other than that, the length distribution appears pretty similar to how it historically has, with well above average numbers of tournament quality fish greater than 14 inches. This next chart is one other way to look at how the lengths of largemouth bass were distributed. This chart shows the trends in what is called proportional size distribution, or PSD. This is a metric that fisheries biologists use to generate a quick number to let them know the proportions of fish at various length groups. So the line at the top of the chart is the percentage of largemouth bass that are at least 12 inches long. The middle line is the percentage of bass that are at least 15 inches long, and the bottom line is the percentage of bass that are at least 20 inches long, which is always a really low number like we see here, as those fish are hard to catch even when we are using electrofishing. Lake Wateree has always been very strong in these categories compared to other lakes, returning PSD results of all lengths that were higher than recent results for Lake Wiley and Fishing Creek Lake, but a little bit lower than Santee Cooper Lakes, which is to be expected given the high numbers of trophy bass that those two lakes produce. This next chart shows the results for relative weight. The easiest way to explain this metric is to compare it to the body mass index chart at your doctor's office. If you go to your doctor and they say, Preston, you're 5'10", you should weigh 175 pounds, but instead you actually weigh more than that. That is the body mass index chart. Relative weight is the exact same thing, but for fish. Now, unlike my doctor, fish biologists and anglers want their fish to be big and fat. So a relative weight score of 100 actually means the fish is very plump compared to the nationwide average fish of that same length. So in practice, reservoirs in South Carolina that have lake average relative weight scores of 90 or greater are generally the best places at producing quality bass fisheries. Lake Wateree certainly has always fallen into that category. This red dashed line is the lake average across all years, which is a score of 97, very close to that target of 100. As anyone that fishes Lake Wateree can attest, these high scores indicate that the numbers of shad in the lake are very high compared to other lakes, leading to fatter bass. For comparison purposes, the Santee Cooper Lakes had an average relative weight score of 91 the past 6 years. Lake Wateree's average score was 93 over that same time, indicating fatter bass at each length. We did sacrifice some fish in 2022 to remove an ear bone that produces growth rings. We can count the rings to determine how old the bass was, just like you can with a pine tree. This picture is what that ear bone looks like. Using the lengths of the fish that we aged, we were able to assign ages to using a statistics program to the fish that we did not sacrifice. This chart shows the frequency at each age that we collected in 2022. There isn't much here that is earth-shattering or unexpected. We see strong reproduction due to the high numbers of 1 to 3-year-old bass, so numbers of fish in the lake should continue to remain high for the foreseeable future. I had meant to go back and change this plot from millimeters to inches, but I ran out of time. Just quickly for reference, 200 millimeters is roughly 8 inches, 300 is roughly 12 inches, and 400 is roughly 16 inches. Forgive us, fisheries biologists generally work on the metric scale. But this chart shows the growth rate of largemouth bass based on our age results from 2022, and we caught fish that ranged in ages from 1 to 10 years old. So of note, the statewide average length of 3-year-old largemouth bass was 14.0 inches from a study that looked at the South Carolina reservoirs from 97 to 2005, as I mentioned earlier. At that time, Lake Wateree's average length of 3-year-old bass was above that average at 14.2 inches. Results from 2022 indicate even faster growth rates, where the average 3-year-old largemouth bass was 15.0 inches. So compared to lakes from that 97 to 2005 study, this growth rate would have been only behind the Santee Cooper Lakes and higher than all other lakes, including Lakes Murray, Wiley, Hartwell, and Greenwood. So bass are growing at the fastest rates we have seen for Lake Wateree and among the fastest we have seen in all other South Carolina reservoirs as well. So growth still looks to be good. This chart shows how we calculated an estimate of the mortality rate. That is the percentage of the fish that die every year, which is that 50.2% in the bottom corner. This means that roughly 50.2% of largemouth bass die each year. That sounds like a very high number, but this is actually very much in line with reservoirs in South Carolina. Back to that DNR study from 1997 to 2005, South Carolina reservoir mortality rates for largemouth bass ranged from 23 to 60%. And Lake Wateree's mortality rate at that time was 47%, so that has remained pretty much constant. Okay, this one, I'm not going to delve into the weeds with this model, but at the meeting we had with Chairman Burns and others earlier this year, the question was raised on if a change in the regulations might help the bass population in the lake. I'm going to avoid going into the weeds with what I did into this computer model to try to answer that question. You can read that long description if you want. But the short version is I plugged a lot of the numbers that we have discussed here this morning into a computer model. The model applied those numbers to a theoretical population of 1,000 largemouth bass and calculated what would happen 50 years from now based on these 3 harvest regulations that I tested. Essentially, based on those results from this model, I don't see there being any real benefits to the Lake Wateree largemouth bass population that would be caused by changing the harvest regulation. And finally, we took fin clips from 100 random bass that we collected this spring. These are the results of those genetics tests. Lake Wateree has a high proportion of Florida strain bass in the lake. The Delta bass that you see there is a candidate to be listed as a new species, but it's native to the Mobile River Basin. Their genes showing up in Lake Wateree is likely just background noise from the tests because they are so closely related to Florida strain bass. So I would pretty much ignore that and really only look at the difference between the Florida bass and the northern/largemouth bass. So to clarify what this pie chart actually is showing, we did not catch any pure northern largemouth bass nor any pure Florida bass. Every fish we caught was a mixture between the 2 strains, and a few had a splash of that Delta bass genes thrown in. but this shows that the average bass in Lake Wateree has about 42% Florida bass genes in its DNA, which is high for most reservoirs in the Piedmont region. We have recently collected additional genetic samples from fish that were caught during 2 bass tournaments, and once we get those results back, we will be able to compare the tournament caught fish to our electrofishing caught fish to see if there are any differences. These genetics results will help DNR determine what genetic makeup bass would need if we ever decided that stocking the lake with additional largemouth bass could prove beneficial. Okay, we're done with the charts. As you've seen, most of the population characteristics that we look for have dipped a little in 2021 and 2022 compared to the period from 2016 to 2018. But looking at the long-term trends, that 2016 to 2018 period was the highest period of the entire data set for most of these metrics. So even while the dip from that period is unwelcome, most metrics are still within the normal fluctuation cycles that we observed throughout this long-term data set, and many are still above the average for the lake over that time. While our electrofishing data does not appear to indicate any significant declines to parts of the largemouth bass population in the lake, we do plan to devote more resources towards investigating additional factors that may have caused the decline in the fishing that many anglers are reporting. We will be back on the lake in spring 2023 for the final year of this current 3-year sampling block. We will also likely take additional genetic samples to provide further clarity on the genetic makeup of the bass population in the lake. Once these results are finalized from the current sampling block and the genetic samples, we will determine if any additional actions need to be taken in the future in terms of potential regulations changes or stocking events. One of the first steps we do plan to take is a sizable increase in our habitat improvement efforts on the lake. We received funds from the Sportfish Restoration Program to purchase a new pontoon boat that will be larger and faster than the one we currently have, allowing us to haul more habitat to different locations throughout the lake more quickly. We have also secured funding from Duke Energy to purchase around 35 fish attractor units like the ones in these pictures, and we are in the process of securing the permit from Duke and the Army Corps of Engineers to sink these units in various locations throughout the lake, which will provide habitat to bass and crappie and a host of other species as well. Additionally, due to the work that is being done by Duke Energy to the Lake Wateree Dam, all of the pieces of busted up concrete are going to be sunk in the lake for deep water habitat. The last estimate we received from Duke was around 2,200 cubic yards of concrete material will be sunk at 4 or 5 locations in the lower lake that we selected for them this upcoming year. We will also determine what additional habitat improvement projects we can accomplish at the lake, and we'll likely consider transplanting the water willow plants that you see out there to establish them in areas of the lake where they are not currently found, as that has been some of the best bass habitat we can find during our electrofishing samples. Other projects that are more research-focused that may be able to provide additional insight into the bass population dynamics in the lake are being discussed but are in the very preliminary stages. But just know, we are planning to approach these angler concerns from multiple different directions to see if we can determine what may be causing a decline in fishing when our sampling data does not indicate a similar trend in the decline of the largemouth bass population. I'm aware that this picture is not of largemouth bass, but I'm always the one taking the pictures and didn't get any pictures with bass from Lake Wateree this year. So instead, here are a pair of 2-pound shell crackers that we collected this spring, and I wanted to feel included in the PowerPoint. I want to thank the council members for inviting myself and other DNR representatives to present these results at this meeting and for being so involved in their support for this fishery. Kershaw County residents should feel confident in knowing that their representatives have been very proactive in trying to support our management of the excellent resource that is Lake Wateree for their constituents. I can take any questions if you have them now, or if there's not time, that's my email address. Feel free to send me questions. Thank you.
Okay, we're very near our 20 minutes allotted for this public presentation, but I'm sure there might be some questions. Let me defer first to Mr. Jones. Any questions or comments?
Did you say Michael Emerson Williams is out there in that audience?
Yes.
Well, anything he's involved in is a good thing. Good presentation.
It was. Other comments? Mr. Tucker.
Preston, can you go back to the scale where you had the years of average for the fish? I think it was like go back, Ryan. You got to go back to the beginning. I don't know if that was. Well, all the way back. It was showing the amount of fish in the river per year.
per year.
Yeah,
I
it
think
was
the
like,
next slide
yeah, it's like the beginning.
other way. Yeah.
Other way, yeah.
Keep going. I think the next
There. Whoop.
This one?
Yeah,
This
go
is the-
back, go back.
yeah, back.
Right there.
Okay.
Right. So my question is, why, like in 1999 and 2001, 2000, why was there such a spike? I mean, did the hurricane bring some in
If you
for
look
us?
at the next column, that is CPUE, which is that catch per hour of electrofishing,
Mhm.
which you see actually went down. So that shows a lot more effort, time was spent collecting fish. So the number went up, but they were catching fewer fish.
Okay.
So I think that year I had both DNR and data from Duke Energy, so it was just a much bigger data set than what the normal year is.
All right. Thank you.
Yes, sir. You're welcome.
Other comments? Russell?
Please, thank you. I really appreciate and enjoyed the time that we had out on the lake, and growing up fishing on the lake, it's always near and dear to my heart, and there's a lot of people that live here in Kershaw County. We have never had shellcracker that big on Lake
No,
Wateree.
ever.
I remember catching those and thinking, "Whoa, who put these in here?" But I think we always have to listen to the fishermen. The data's important, but I know listening to Mr. Michael, really appreciate you pushing this and getting everybody on the same page and making this happen, along with Chairman Burns. Really appreciate what this means for Kershaw County. I do have a little off-the-topic question while we're here.
Sure.
So while the water's down, you guys are going to be making some improvements, structures and that sort of thing.
Yes, sir.
I've noticed a lot of people, especially like in the Lake Wateree Facebook page and that sort of thing, the HOA and different groups, they've noticed rocks and things that aren't marked that would get a foot on a motor or a prop. Is there a way that when we're out putting those traps, when you guys are out putting those traps out and all those different items to attract fish, can we mark those and get buoys up?
Yes, sir. So that is actually falls under the law enforcement part of our agency. We're biologists and law enforcement officers. The game wardens are different groups within that. So that is their responsibility to mark those. But we were letting them know every high spot that we see.
Okay.
And they have them on the schedule to get out there and get them marked.
Beautiful, perfect. I know some hard stumps and that sort of thing.
Right. Oh yeah.
I'd like to see that take place, and also, Danny, if I might add this, we've had some folks that are out there picking up old tires. These tires have been out there probably since the 70s, 80s. People put tires out for fish attractants. I don't know if they're detrimental or not to the environment.
We don't encourage tires, yeah. Because you never know what's going to leach out of those things over time.
So could we maybe see if the DNR, along with Duke Energy, along with Palmetto Pride and others, could we make an effort for a tire pickup on Lake Wateree? And Danny, can we make some special places to receive those tires for a period of time, for maybe a 2 or 3 week period of time? That if folks wanted to pick out tires up in front of their property, if they bring them in, I feel like we need to make an effort to do something while the lake's down to clean those up. I saw several people also in those Facebook groups saying, hey, gosh, I picked up 12 tires, but I don't know where to take them. And I tried to direct them and say, hey, no, we can take them. And I think maybe Fairfield County, I know that doesn't pertain to us, but Lake Wateree goes up into Fairfield County, only take 4 a day. What's our policy? 4 a day? So can we do something there to allow folks that are bringing tires from the lake in to exceed 4 a day? Because I think people are willing to help and willing to do this, but not if they're limited to 4 a day. I mean, they may go in front of their dock and pick up 15, 20 tires. So I don't know how we can connect the dots and get some sort of a push to help clean the lake up.
The Catawba Riverkeeper group it would be a good they do like trash sweeps and things like that. So that would be a good and I have a contact for them and I can get in touch with them.
Okay, we can talk after the meeting. I know we've got lots of other topics to go. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Yeah, just to close it out, DNR from the state of South Carolina is competent, engaged, and let me just say effective. I really appreciate you showing the citizens of Kershaw County how professional you are and engaged. You care about our environment as much as we do. All this started with tournament bass fishermen who lost, complaining to me there weren't any fish in the lake. And I think I'll tell them just to change their lure. And I'll give them a name of a couple of bait stores they can go to.
I just want it on the record that you said that and not me.
Yeah, that's right. We're as interested rest of the watershed, to include below the dam, and with Mike Williams' help, we will probably be back to talk to you again, but I wish you a Merry, Merry Christmas and a safe journey from where you came. Thanks for your flexibility to come today. Thank you very much. Well done. That was something. Well, we've done horses, we've done fish. We're going to do race cars a little bit with Mr. Michael Cummings, but right now let's go to the budget and do the audit. That's the next item. Shaheen Hancock Godwin and with Mr. Mark Wood. Sir, Mark, can you come forward, please? And let's try to stay within 20 minutes if we can. And over to you, sir. I hope you've got some good news for us.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's a pleasure, and council, it's a pleasure to be with you this morning. No, I will not try to take 20 minutes. I'll try to be faster than that because I need to get back to my office because I've got a lot of stuff to get done. You've got your executive summary in front of you. That's what I'm going to go through this morning. You received an unmodified opinion, which is the highest opinion we can give on a set of financial statements. So,
can we get a copy to Mr. Jones after this meeting, please? Thank you very much.
We're going to skip down to number 2. Number 1 is just kind of an outline and audit report. Y'all, that's pretty self-explanatory. So number 2, I'm going to go through the general fund first, and then we'll come back and run through the proprietary funds. General fund total assets were $41.8 million. Total liabilities were $23.6, so your fund balance was a little over $18 million. Number 3, that shows you a breakdown of your analysis of your fund balance. So non-spendable, which is prepaid expenses, is $5,600. Restricted was $281,000. Committed, which most of that is for capital projects, was almost 9.4. And your unassigned and unrestricted fund balance was $8.5 million. Your total revenues were just under $30 million. Expenditures were about 25.6. Transfers and other sources, financing sources, were a little over $1 million. So your positive change in fund balance was almost $3.3 million. Now, if you look at that, you know, that's a very positive fund balance change. The most of that, though, is sitting in your committed. Last year for 2021, your committed, which most of that is for capital projects, was about $6.6 million. So you really only added about $500,000 to your unrestricted fund balance. So council has committed most of that increase for capital projects. That $8.5 million is roughly about 4 months of reserves. And while I'm on that subject, let me kind of explain that. You know, the rule of thumb is 3 to 6 months. 4 months, you know, you're kind of on the low end, but why it's critical to have reserves is because your biggest source of revenue, which is property taxes, only comes in a very short period of time, meaning from about January through about April. The other 8 months, you've got to rely on your other sources of revenue plus your reserves in order to make cash flow. And so once you get into September, the county is running kind of lean, and so they are running based off of reserves in order to continue to make payroll and those things like that until property taxes kick back up in January. So I just wanted to emphasize that there's a reason why you need to have reserves. You're not hoarding money. You've got to have that in order to continue to function as a county when times get lean as they normally do, starting in about August, okay? Proprietary fund, I've combined these together. You can look at page 20, and it'll show you the breakdown between the sewer and the EMS, and also on page 21. I just did this as a combined number, but it's $33.5 million for total assets, $8.5 million for total liabilities, and your equity net position is $25 million. Of course, most of that is invested in capital assets of $20 million. $600,000 is restricted, and a little over $4 million is unassigned or unrestricted. Okay, sorry.
Yeah, thank you, Mary.
Total revenues were about 9.7 million. Total expenditures were 7.3. Your other is interest is 100,000. You had transfers and capital contributions, so your positive change in that position was $3.7 million, okay? And once again, page 20 and page 21 will show you the breakdown of both of those between EMS and sewer. Looking at the budget, the revenues, you exceeded your budget by 2.7. And where most of that is at is property taxes were $680,000 over budget. Local option sales tax was a little over $1 million, and planning and zoning fees were a little over $500,000. Expenditures were under budget by 1.7, and that was mainly due to general government being $780,000 under, and public safety being $870,000 under, and your transfers were over budget by 1.1 million. Just for reference, your OPEB obligation this year went down by about $800,000. That's your post-employment health insurance. And your pension liability decreased this year by about $6.5 million. You know, I think overall, I think the county should be very pleased with this report. It shows that the county is in a very healthy position. No findings. And, you know, I'd like to thank Mr. Templer and Sandra for all their hard work. You know, we put them through the ringer for about 2 weeks, and we demand a lot of y'all staff, but they're excellent to work with and are very knowledgeable. They're very responsive to what we need, and it helps us out tremendously trying to get our job done. With that, I'll open up to any questions y'all might have.
Explain what no findings mean.
No findings means we did not find any internal control issues that we felt like needed to be brought to council's attention.
Yeah, I just wanted that for the record. Thank you. Mr. Templer, you have any comments here? And then we'll take questions.
No.
All right, let's go to Mr. Jones. Do you have anything?
No comments.
Okay, up here, Mr. Tucker.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First of all, let me say thank you to Ms. Brown and her staff. As Mr. Wood has already stated, we appreciate what you guys do in keeping us rocking and rolling financially and in good straight bounds. There's a lot of counties don't have the talent that we have here and the hardworking folks. So I want to say a duly thanks to all of you. Mr. Wood, my question to you, and thank you again for your team doing what you do, is as far as making sure that we're audited properly and that we're, you know, guided in the right directions. Appreciate your explanation on how important the reserve fund is. My question to you is, are you amenable to coming back sometime the first of the year, because we do have quite a few new council members, to briefly go over this, or sit down in a smaller group with those council members that may not have their head around this just yet because they're new on site?
It would be my pleasure. I'll be happy to meet with council, whether that's one-on-one, a small group, however y'all would like for me to do that. That would not be a problem.
I greatly appreciate that. Thank you.
Other comments? Mr. Gardner.
Yeah, I just thank you, Mr. Wood, for the good news. I think this is a testament to Danny, our department heads, our employees, that, you know, we stay within our budget. We don't spend just because it's in the budget, and I just think that's a testament to the caliber of people we have in this county, and it's reflected in this audit. So thanks to our employees.
Other comments? Well, we went from,
Yeah.
Mr. Brazel, please.
Can we talk about specifically our sewer fund? It's an enterprise fund. I just want to walk through it real quick. Do you have time to?
Sure.
I want to make sure I understand. We've got a $250,000 debit.
What page you on, Russell?
21.
On page 21.
Go ahead.
So we're showing a $250,000 debit to the general fund. Is that correct? It's about 2/3 of the way down.
Yeah, there was a transfer of $250,000 to the general fund, yes.
Okay, was that to repay money that had been put into there, or what was the reasoning for that? Do we know?
Be honest with you, I do not remember what that would be. I'd have to get back to you on that.
Okay, and that's fine. We can, just as Mr. Tucker said, we can discuss that later. I'm real big on. We've got 3 funds. 2 are enterprise funds, and then we've got our general fund. I'm real big on those being independent and capable of standing on their own 2 feet. We got rid of the tax for the sewer fund, so the public pays no tax. Only the users pay for the service. I'd like to make sure moving forward to be fiscally responsible that the revenues from user fees and that sort of thing stay in that fund. It looks.
Yeah, and let me, to your point, Councilman Brazel, let me show you that. If you look at above that where it says operating income of almost $7 million for the sewer.
Right.
So your sewer fees come in at $4 million. Your total operating expenses were 2.3. So you had a positive operating income of almost $1.7 million. So I think that shows you that your fees are covering your cost.
Right. So to continue down that trail, I want to make sure that all capital projects and improvements that we make are funded through the sewer fund, and nothing's taken from anywhere else. And I think that's definitely the case. How much money do we have in the sewer fund in reserve status, and does that affect our total reserves, the $8.5 million that we were just speaking of?
$8.5 million is just general fund. So your unrestricted reserves for sewer is 3.3. That's on page 20.
Okay, so we have 3.3 million unrestricted in our sewer fund. Is that correct? Danny, do we have any projects that we need to pay for other than the bond revenue that we're voting on today?
That'd be the phase 2A of Southern Loop is what we're.
But is there anything else?
I mean, there's always going to be something. Part of the system is old, and it we'll have 30, 60 feet of line crumble. So there's kind of these flash issues that come up. But as far as projects beyond the scope of Southern Loop and the eventual upgrade that we'll need, no.
What's the minimum? I'm sorry, Mr. Jones had something.
Mr. Jones, do you have a comment?
I didn't mean to interrupt. I was saying also we have to look at expansion as well, too.
Yeah.
Right.
The future, correct. So just as you were saying, 3 to 4 months, or 3 to 6 months rather, is our minimum in the other fund is a bottom. What's our bottom in this sewer fund? What are we comfortable having as a minimum amount of money in case of emergency, that sort of thing? We have a line break or whatever.
I would say you need probably at least 6 months in the sewer fund for utility, because if you have a major pump station or anything like that go down, you're not talking a few $1,000s. You're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars. So I always tell people that are in the utility business, not that you can't have too high reserves, because you can, but you certainly need reserves, because the older your system gets, you're going to constantly have lines going out, you got to replace lines, and then, you know, if you've got a pump station that goes out or two of them go out, those are some major expenditures that you don't want to have to go and borrow every time that happens. You want to be able to have reserves on hand that you can make those repairs. So I would say at a minimum you would need 6 months.
So it's like $191,000 a month if I take the total operating expenses and divide by 12. So we would probably need $1 million, roughly $1.1 million, something like that, $1.2 million.
Probably at least.
So I think my point is we're taking money out of that fund that we're not sure where it went. We've got 3.3 million in reserves. So that basically would give us $2 million to spend on any kind of expansion. Do you think it'd be foolish to spend some of that money instead of taking this bond out? And that's the Danny question.
I wouldn't recommend it. As the administrator, I wouldn't recommend it with our borrowing capability with this SRF loan it's such a 1.6%. It's through the 10-year life of the loan. It's $273,000 in interest. No, sir, I wouldn't recommend it.
Mr. Jones, please.
I agree with Mr. Brazel on that. Sorry, Danny.
No, that's fine.
I don't know that I've developed an opinion yet. I'm just thinking through things.
Well, but I agree with the way you're thinking, you know, and I think it's something worth looking at. And when the new council gets on board, this is something we were going to be addressing.
Is there a prepayment penalty for that bond? There's no prepayment penalty. If we're at third reading tonight, correct? If it passes, how long will it take to transpire to get the bond started? Would it be a month-long process?
Yeah, he's back there.
Okay, we have that. Why don't we defer that to the sewer part, because we're on the audit right now. Is that all right with you?
Yeah, I've gone a little far down the trail. That's fine.
Yeah.
I just wanted to do some fact-finding and understand where we were at. Thank you so much, Mark.
Yeah. Other comments? So to summarize, balanced budget, well-managed, correct?
Correct.
Right. Thus far, you've had a darn good record with no findings. We've cut the debt in the county substantially. So county debt has been dramatically reduced. We've done away with the sewer tax. And in your judgment, this last fiscal movements that we made under the last budget result in no findings and a solid budget.
Correct.
So I say that for the benefit of the staff, Danny and Sandra and others, that it's a sorry frog that won't croak in its own pond. And I let you croak all you want, Sandra. Well done. Thank you very much. So we go from bass to frogs and to audits. Thank you very much, and thank you, Mark. Merry Christmas to you.
Thank you. Merry Christmas.
Yeah, thank you very much. We move now to, that ends public presentations. We move to approval of minutes. It's on page 5 at tab B. Can we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Mr. Gardner, a second.
Second.
Mr. Tucker, discussion beginning with Mr. Tucker.
None.
Mr. Gardner, excuse me.
I have none.
Mr. Jones calling in. Any comments?
None.
Okay, no comments. I say we move to a vote. Beginning with Mr. Jones, how do you vote?
Yes.
Yes, and all others signify by raising your hands. And it's approved, Mary, universally. Thank you very much for that. We move now to a series of ordinances. Third reading of an ordinance approving financing of the Southern Loop. It's item number 1 under ordinances, and on page 10 for you, Jimmy, out there at tab C. Third reading of an ordinance approving the financing of the Southern Loop sewer improvement project. Mr. Danny Templer, can you just give us a summary of this, and then we'll take a motion to put it on the floor?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman, members of council. This is before you, third reading. Obviously, we've talked through this on the last two. This would allow us to borrow $2.7 million to both finish up Phase 2A of Southern Loop and repay ourselves for the money we spent out of pocket, if you will, for phase one. And I have an individual here to help us. Gary is here to help us with understand any nuances or any questions y'all have.
Yeah, and of course, we will want to talk about the interest rate. With that, can we have a motion to approve?
Make a motion that we approve, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Tucker, a second.
Second.
Second from Mr. Gardner. It's on the floor. Do we want to have any discussion before I just go ahead and go and have the council start, Danny?
I'm sorry, what was it?
Do you want to go ahead and just begin council discussions?
Sure. Yes.
You want to add anything further? Okay, Mr. Tucker, lead off, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Brazel, I'm tracking where you're looking at into this audit in reference to what we have, and it's roughly about $2 million there. If you remember,
3.2.
Yeah, you remember last, I believe it was last meeting or meeting before last, as we were going down this, I asked that question, bless you, was there any penalties to pay it off early? And we were told by the bond attorney, no. I feel with the administrator, with the process that you have to go through, the timing and the rate, if you don't take advantage of this now, I think you would be blowing opportunity and draining our reserves there in the sewer fund down to a level that I feel unsafe as one governing person in this body. Because lines and pumps break. This is an antiquated old system. And it was given back to council in that condition. And we've been working on it since I've been up here and even before I got here. So things come up unexpectedly, and there's no way you'll get this bond rate or move through. You see how long it's taken us to get through the third reading with all the steps we have to take to process in time of emergency. And so that's what scares me, and that's why I'm supporting this tonight.
Very good. Mr. Jones, out from you, please, sir.
Well, I disagree with Mr. Tucker on his comments. I think that
What's new?
there's money that's out there. I thought Mr. Brazel was very sharp in bringing up some discussion. I understand he did not form an opinion, but he brought up some very interesting matters within just a few minutes that I think that council moving forward next year can look at, or I would like to have the opportunity to at least do that before they go creating another debt, because we do have an old system. There's going to be many, many things that needs to be done for the upkeep and the expansion. And yet there's not been a whole lot of exploring other options rather than, oh, we got a good bond rate. Well, I don't have a crystal ball. I don't know that we won't have a good bond rate 5 months from now. Nobody can say that. But, you know, I wish we'd slow down, because I think in interest, we're going to be paying how much interest in this by the time we finish paying for it?
What's the interest rate, Mr. Jones is asking?
It's
$70,000.
$273,000 should the life of the.
What's the rate? 1.6. You can't do better than that. Back to you, Mr. Jones.
Yes, sir. Thank you. That is a good rate, no question about it. But bottom line is creating more debt. And we haven't really had the opportunity to look into it. I feel like with sound, solid business minds like Mr. Brazel, that the council coming on board could look at this and probably determine a better way of doing it than just going out and taking on another bond. But that's my opinion. Of course, I will be voting no against this.
All right. Other comments? Mr. Rousey, we cut you off in the audit session. Why don't you go ahead?
Maybe for the bond attorney. Do you mind, sir?
Yeah, come on up, Gary, and identify yourself for the people listening in.
Gary Pope from Pope Flynn, bond attorney for this transaction.
Very good. Go ahead there, Danny. Excuse me, Russell.
Obviously, nothing to do with the project or what you're doing. We're going through a transition. We've got some new members coming, and they're the ones that are going to be responsible for making sure everything's successful moving forward, just as this council has been responsible for the last 8 to 12 years, depending on how long you've been here. Would it hurt the situation to take this up in about 3 weeks? And I know that means another trip for you.
I think you need to do what you think is the right. That's a policy decision, and I can ask the SRF to defer for just a moment if they'd like to. But
could we keep the same rate?
They're going to keep the same rate as long as we. I will say that we are, this process started, I think, in like 2018. I was looking back at my records, and so I think the SRF commitment maybe came in 2020. So, I mean, I don't know if this is setting a record for how much patience they're giving us to close it, but I do get a little prod from time to time to say, where is this and can we move along? I don't think waiting another month is going to cause any trouble if that's policy position.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yes.
Other comments?
Yes.
Mr. Jones.
Oh, welcome. Glad you're here, and appreciate you clarifying that up to us as well. So, Council, as I said, there wouldn't be any harm in waiting, and I think that's what we need to do, because I think you have some bright new ideas coming on board next month, and I just think, guys, we shouldn't be doing this today, excuse me, this morning. Thank you.
Yeah, this morning. Thank you, Mr. Jones. Other comments? When you look at the totality of the financial system that we have in our budget and how we have come through to reduce debt, remove the sewer tax universally, and go to a ratepayer system, and to tinker with one piece of it and the whole has not been addressed in a definitive budget process, in which it seems to be suggested that we go after pieces of the budget in advance of a proper budget process that we've already had that led us to this point. It seems to me ill-advised to delay the vote. Secondly, we are very clear about the fact that our infrastructure is deficient, and that needs to be addressed first and foremost right away. If there is a larger context to doing a budget that addresses millions of dollars, then it ought to be done as a part of a budget process, and that would be my advice to those coming in the new council, instead of doing it in piece part. And they may have that budget will be interesting, and I wish you luck on that. But the debt here now is so small and the interest rate paid so low with the need so pressing, I think we should proceed. The third issue has been widely suggested that we need to expand our sewer plant. That is desirable, but not crucial. And that is the reason we're taking a look at it in a deliberate way and set aside funds for that in the future. So that should be addressed in a deliberate way if I was to give any advice. But if my vote were taken right now, I would vote to proceed. With that, I call the question.
Excuse me, can I make one more comment?
Yeah, please, Mr. Jones.
Thank you so much. Let me just say this, that we talk about we did away with the sewer tax. Well, what we did was the sewer tax district is still in place. What we did was shift the money. It was a P&L game. We shifted the money to the users of the sewer system. Some of them have seen double and almost 2.5 times more on their monthly increases because of that. But the sewer district is still there countywide. I don't think it was taken care of. And, we talk about a minuscule amount of interest. Mr. Pope, what would the interest be to pay this bond off in its total?
All right, could you say that one more time? You broke up.
Yeah, I'm sorry. What is the amount of interest Mr. Pope would be paying at the full length of this bond?
Danny, you have that number as well.
268,000, I think it is.
It's 270, 273.
273.
$273,000.
Yeah, and here's where I'm standing to. We talk about, and it was brought up again about this county council said we need to expand our sewer plant. We have no capacity. We need to buy land next to it to do it. Then this county council comes and says, no, we don't need to buy the land. No, we don't need to expand right now. Guys, you all know we have a problem with the sewer. And I just really think this is a hasty move. It's going to lock the new council into some debt that they don't need to have, that they should be making on their own decision. Come January, I've said it to some of the new members, look, we can't blame anybody after January because it's going to be on us, the new council. We got to produce. Well, what we're doing here tonight, or this afternoon, excuse me, is just locking us into something that I think the new council should have an opportunity to look at, decide which they want. So that's where I'm at.
All right, thank you. With that, I'm ready to call the question. Having stated that we are below capacity on the current system, and the old system is an urgent need. With that, Mr. Jones, how do you vote?
Vote no.
All those in favor signify by raising your hand. Mr. Jones, Mr. Gardner, Mr. Tucker. Those opposed? And that's Mr. Brazel. That makes Mr. Brazel and Mr. Jones in opposition. The motion passes, and that is, we can move now to the next item on the agenda, item number 2, the third reading of an ordinance regarding, I cannot take that call. I should just, there you go. Third reading of an ordinance of County Council to amend the county's official zoning map. It's at page 23 for you, Mr. Jones, tab D. Would you tell us what it is, Mr. Templer, excuse me.
I have one quick question. Was Mr. Tomlinson planning on calling in?
We haven't heard from him, so we're moving ahead. Go ahead, Mr. Templer.
Mr. Chairman, members of council, you have before you a rezoning. It's been before you twice before. This is Carolina Motorsports. It is just, the spirit of this is right now to purchase land and create a buffer around the racetrack, which has been something they've consistently done throughout their operation under the new owner.
Very good. We have Mr. Cummings here, who is the owner. Thank you, sir. With that, can we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Mr. Gardner, a second.
Second.
Mr. Brazel. Thank you, Russell. Discussion. Mr. Gardner, please.
Yeah, this is, it's been approved on first 2 readings. Carolina Motorsport Parks is a viable industry here, good partner, and I see no reason where this would cause any problems.
Come talking to Mike. I can't hear.
Would be very good thing for Kershaw County. So I will support this.
Very good. Second was
Mr. Brazel.
Mr. Brazel. Well, let me hear first from Mr. Jones. Go ahead, Jimmy.
I can't really hear a thing anybody's saying, and I don't mean this with disrespect, but if everybody could really talk clearly and loudly in their mics, I'd appreciate it. I have no comments. I am going to support this. I have no comments.
Okay, Mr. Brazel.
I think anybody that invests this kind of money in our community is certainly appreciated and deserves our support. So we want to thank Mr. Cummings for everything that he's done. His family's invested a lot of money in our community, and we appreciate what that does for Kershaw County. So I'm on full support.
Very good. Other comments?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to say congratulations and thanks again for being well invested in Kershaw County, even though you're real close to the Lancaster County line. They think they have ownership at that track up there, especially the Sheriff's Department, but we own it because it's in Kershaw County. And I just want to check your right hand or your left hand partner that's sitting back there. You know who you have sitting by you? He's a good man. Thank you, sir.
All right, with that, I think we're ready to move to a vote. Thank you, sir, for your investment in our county. It's a great addition, and it's slightly bigger horsepower than what we're used to with Mike Mathis and the Equine Center. Thank you very much. All those in favor, first Mr. Jones, how do you vote?
Yes.
And all others signify by raising your hand. And Mary, it's unanimous and passes. We move now to item number 3, third reading of an ordinance authorizing a fee in lieu by and between Kershaw County for Orion Performance Compounds. It's on page 33. It's at tab E. Mr. Templer, can you just give us a quick rundown and we'll move to a motion?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman, members of council. You have before you third reading of a fee in lieu agreement between Kershaw County and Project Orion Performance Compounds. I have Jeff Burgess here to answer any specific questions y'all may have.
Very good. We have Mr. Burgess here to explain. Did any member from Orion make it to our change? They did. Very good. Can you introduce him very quickly and we'll go to a motion? Just tell me who he is, that's all. Mr. Say again, please. Mr. Daniel Craig, sir.
Oh, he was great in all the Bond movies.
So with that, I'm ready to move to a motion.
Mr. Chairman, make a motion to approve.
Mr. Tucker, a second.
Second.
Second from Mr. Gardner. With that, we move to a discussion. Mr. Tucker.
Yes, I would like to hear some more on the project from Mr. Burgess as
Good.
far as some of the particulars that we
Okay,
didn't
Jeff,
go
come
over
on
in
up.
first and
Thank
second
you very
reading.
much.
Yes, sir. Can y'all hear everything okay?
Yes.
Okay, because I tend to talk like. Yes, sir. This is Orion Performance Compounds. They are locating in Kershaw County after a multi-state search. They are planning and already have at this point invested approximately $13 million in the facility. They plan to hire 54 people. The average salary, or excuse me, average wage is right at $25 an hour with an average salary of around $51,000 a year. The group is going to specialize in dealing with extruded plastics. They're going to pelletize it. If you're familiar with what goes on at Vista, they use polymers now and are switching over. This tends to be I guess, the new fiber is what it's coming out to be. Their products are used mostly for medical, automotive, as well as aerospace and sporting goods at this point in time. While this group is a standalone operation, it does have affiliations only through investors with other groups that are involved in polymers. So this is basically going to be their first go, and they chose Kershaw County for that first go. So we're glad to have them here. They are set up to start expanding at some point in the future, and that is their plan. They don't intend on slowing down where they're at.
And can you be clear about the location?
They are located in the Heritage Point Industrial Park and the former Spec Building.
In the spec building?
Yes, sir.
I should have let Mr. Brazel take the second on that motion because that's where he's putting in his expansion. Very good.
That park is filled up very quickly.
Okay, back to you, Mr. Tucker, then we'll go to Mr. Jones.
I'm good for now.
All right.
Thank you,
Mr.
Burgess.
Jones, please.
Thank you.
Is Mr. Jones up?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yep, we got you.
Okay, no comments.
What was that, Danny?
No comments.
No comment. Okay, Russell.
Jeff, so just yesterday, I think it was announced in Charleston, $3.5 billion. Wow.
Yes,
South Carolina is the place to be, the good and the bad, right?
Yes, sir.
With all these great jobs come a lot of great people. And we see it on our roads. We feel it. I'm thrilled to have them here. Investment in our community is what keeps our economic wheels turning. So I will support it. But I do know things have changed with fee in lieu agreements. Didn't state legislator change?
They did. It's complicated, and I'd rather have someone speak to it much more than I can. But what can happen now is they have lowered what effectively is the 10.5% assessment ratio, which personal property and real property are taxed at on the industrial side. That is now at 6%. So a company can technically come in and get 6% right off the top.
Yeah.
But that's going through a formula that they basically break it down. The only thing it allows on that side is the company can also qualify for the 5-year statutory tax abatement if they go that route. And Ken, feel free to jump in if I get this incorrect. On a FELO, you have the option of offering an SSRC, which that only through a FELO can you do that and bring it before council. And that's a special source revenue credit, which is a credit back to the company. But also the FELO allows for a company to go into a multi-county industrial park. And for the company, it represents a rebate for their job tax credits that they can apply for. But it just opens up the doors for those two. Now, with a FELO, they cannot qualify for the statutory tax abatement for 5 years. So it's going to kind of be up to the companies and their attorneys and consultants to determine what action they want to take.
I guess a general observation is now that the state of South Carolina is at 6%, not at 10.5%, we're not really competing with North Carolina and Georgia as much as we were because we're on a level playing field.
It's much more level. They're still lower, but I think that we tend to have a little bit more aggressive on the state side as far as incentives go.
Okay. So, but basically, we're not giving any sort of abatement to get to 6% at this point.
No,
so
sir.
it's standard taxation, and they get some incentives because they're bringing jobs to the county.
Yes, sir.
To generalize it just a little bit. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Well, we look forward to having them. Thank you.
Absolutely. Other comments? All right. I will say that we're delighted you're here. Thanks for your flexibility in moving to Thursday. It's a great win for Jeff. He's added to his notches on his pistol with the Prestige Farms moving out, with Invista what was that, 54 jobs, Prestige Farms, 300. Jeff, you get to be a frog in your own pond here today, too. But we do appreciate the vision and the trust in us that you demonstrate, sir, by being here today. Thank you very much. We've had a great year in expanding, and that means downstream there will be FELO funds that will help us probably in the fiscal year 23-24, somewhere in there. But you have not only reversed, but you have expanded our FELO posture. Thank you, Jeff. With that, I'm ready to move to a vote. Sammy, other points?
Yes, sir. Can we hear from the gentleman? I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, would you like to come up and
He thought
tell
he
me?
got through unscathed.
Yeah, and tell us it's the bass fishing that brought you here.
So my name's Daniel Craig. I'm actually their attorney, so I'm who walked them through the process. There's no
Right.
company representative here today, but I told them I would attend on their behalf.
Well, at least
Thanks
we know
for being
who
Thank
you
you.
are.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Thank you.
and I'll convey a note to the CEO after this today. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Give him our best. And with that, we move to a vote. Mr. Jones, how do you vote?
Yes.
Yes. All others signify. And Mary, it's unanimous, and that's a very Merry Christmas for you, Jeff. Thank you, sir. We move to new business, which is item number 1, allocation of funds in support of the honored dead on the battlefield. There's a letter from Mr. Doug Bostic at page 108, at tab E, in which he asked for the allocation of $35,000. And secondly, in which he asked for in-kind support, some of which we're already providing at the park, thanks to Danny Templar in the rec department. I turn to what I propose is we put it on the floor. We'll have Lauren Reeder go through a briefing they sent us. Lauren is not an advocate for or against, but she can take us through the briefing so you can all see what we're in for. With that, I ask for a motion to approve.
Mr. Chairman, make a motion to approve $35,000 to the Battlefield Trust and in-kind support for the burial of the honored dead in April of 2023.
And can we have a second?
Second.
Second, Mr. Gardner. Lauren, if you wouldn't mind gracing us with a short briefing. And I guess we can see it here on the screen, correct? Yeah. Thank you.
Sir, good morning.
Good morning.
As a member of the Camden Burial Steering Committee, I wanted just to briefly give council a quick overview of what has happened this year and what
Bring the
is going
microphone close so Mr. Jones can
going
hear.
to-
There you go.
Can you hear me better? Okay. What's happened this year and then what's going to happen in the new year. Next slide. The Burial Committee is working with the South Carolina Battleground Preservation Trust that was founded in '93, and it's dedicated to protecting and preserving battlefields and historic military sites in our state. Since its inception, they have 72 sites in South Carolina that they are protecting. Next slide. The Battleground Trust has been a part of this discovery from the very beginning and will be involved with the project until the end with a respectful burial with full honors on April 22nd and the actual locations they were found at the Camden battlefield. Next slide. Earlier this summer, battlefield excavations occurred, recovering 14 bodies, 12 Maryland or Delaware Continentals, 1 soldier with Bryan's North Carolina Volunteers, which is Loyalist, and 1 British soldier from Fraser's Highlanders. Just a quick overview and recap of what occurred at the Battle of Camden and what it looked like in August of 1780. As you can see, the majority of militia troops broke and ran before British troops even reached their lines. Next slide. We do have a number of persons and organizations that are involved all the way from an international to local level. Nationally, we've got the South Carolina Congressional Delegation, U.S. Army, Commanding Generals at Fort Jackson and 3rd Army, the Director of Office of Army Cemeteries in Arlington, Virginia is involved. We have international ambassadors and DAT from Germany, Great Britain, and France. At the state level, you've got our governor, General Assembly, National Guard, VA, State Guard, as well as Freedom Riders and American Legion. We also have involved state delegation from Delaware, Maryland, and Virginia. Obviously, our county and city of Camden officials are involved, as well as multiple historical and heritage organizations. And lastly, I wanted to leave you with what is to come this year. As you can see, this is the kind of event schedule starting April 20th of 2023. We will have a morning procession from Columbia to Camden with a ceremonial event at Fort Jackson National Cemetery. There will also be a public school drive-through. On Friday, Honor Guard with soldiers' remains will be at Historic Camden, and it will be guarded 24/7 or 24 hours a day. There will also be reenactors at Historic Camden, and then an evening concert that evening as well. And then on Saturday, we start our day at 9 a.m. with a procession from Historic Camden to the Bethesda Presbyterian Church, which is here in downtown Camden. 11 a.m. is the funeral service. We will then concur at 2 p.m. with a battlefield ceremony and burials. And then later that evening, we will actually do a dinner theater at the Westminster Hall at Bethesda Presbyterian. Is there any questions that I can answer on behalf of the burial committee?
Can we get copies of these slides to Mr. Jones? Mr. Jones,
Yes,
any
sir.
questions on the concept?
No. Have we taken a vote yet?
No, we're coming to that in a moment. All
Are
right.
we on the floor for discussion? Because I lost y'all for a few minutes. I couldn't hear a thing.
All right. No, we're not on the discussion yet, but as soon as we're finished with Lauren, we will begin.
He wanted to know was there a motion and a second, and the answer is yes.
Yes, I'm sorry. Thank you, Mr. Tucker.
Yes, sir.
Yes, we're on the floor for discussion. We'll open it up here shortly. All right, Lauren, thank you. That was perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you,
And
Lauren.
let's get a copy out to everybody. Mr. Tucker, I think you made the first motion.
Yes, sir. I have no report at this time.
Nothing to discuss. Over to you, Mr. Jones.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the County Council. Oh, goodness. Well, as to the battlefield funds, no proposal in the agenda as to the source. And that's where I have a problem. You know, this council is spending money. If we vote on this today, we're spending money with no transparency. I support the concept of the request, but not the timing. It should be done next month. If this council will certainly yield, I will put this on the next, or I'm sure somebody else will put this on the next agenda with the source of funds in advance and hopefully can support it at that time. So that's where I'm at.
Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, Mr. Tucker.
Thank you. And I do apologize because normally I do identify my source of revenues when we spend. So, Mr. Jones, to your point, these funds have been identified by the administrator, that he has them in the budget that we've currently passed, and that this will not be any fee, tax increase to any citizens. So I'll let Mr. Templer speak for himself, but that would be the source of the revenue.
But it wasn't posted.
Mr. Templer.
Yes, the obvious source would be ATAX.
Okay. And Mr. Jones, you get your answer?
No, my point is it wasn't posted. The source wasn't posted in the agenda.
All right, I got you.
We don't post source in the agenda. We
this
discuss
is,
source.
I've been here 8 years. We've never done that
Yeah.
before. We always have transparency at this table, but not in the manner you suggest. And I don't believe that's necessary for us to slow down the process when you've heard from Mr. Templer, formally and officially.
So y'all are, with all due respect and much respect for this council, but y'all are a ball of transparency. Listen, let me just say this. I stand by my position. There was no source in the agenda to the proposal, and you're talking about $35,000. You know, bottom line is that this was put on the agenda with no information.
All right, thank you, Mr. Jones. Other discussion?
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Tucker.
I just can't let that go. It was posted in your package, a letter, the amount that was requested. It was not exceeded on what they requested. Everything was done proper and in order. We never identify funds. We do discuss them when we get up here and make motions in seconds and bring it to the floor. And I've identified that. And I'm sorry it doesn't satisfy Mr. Jones, but I'm looking forward to taking the vote.
All right. Any further discussion?
If I may.
Mr. Brazel.
So I actually had the same question, and I want to clarify. You did say that it's going to be taken from ATAX. Is that 100%? Okay. You said that would be the obvious choice, but we we don't proceed on obvious choices.
Right, yeah, I mean, just in.
It's got to be factual.
Right, the spirit of which this project is, bringing in people and tourism, if you will, and I say obvious for me.
Right.
Would obviously go to
Unfortunately, we don't get that pleasure sitting at the dais. We have to be very clear. I can support it if ATAX dollars are going to be used, and we have enough available in the ATAX fund.
All right.
And that's a yes.
Thank you for that clarification.
If I may.
Yeah, Mr. Jones, one last talk. Go ahead.
Thank you. I don't disagree with what Mr. Brazel said. You know, now that we understand it's going to be taken out of ATAX funds, I just don't like hearing about it at the last moment. So I will not vote for this because of the way it was, only because of the way it was handled by county council. Thank you.
All right. With that, we move to a vote. Mr. Jones, how do you vote?
No.
And then for the allocation of funds in support of the honored dead on the battlefield, how does the remainder vote? Signify by raising your hand. And it's Mr. Tucker, Mr. Brazel, Mr. Burns, and Mr. Gardner. It's 4-1, and it approved. Thank you very much. Camden has already approved it, and it's good to be able to move forward together. Item number 2 is boards and commissions appointments. We have 2, I believe. Mary, help me through this. The first one is on page, is it 105, I believe, 105, tab G, which is a replacement for Mr. Hardis on the Clean Community Council. I believe Mr. Garcia's name has been put up. Can we have a nomination for Mr. Garcia?
Make a motion for Mr. Garcia.
Mr. Tucker, a second?
Second.
Second. Very good. It's on the table. Mr. Tucker, you want to lead?
Well, you have his information there before you, and
Can we get that on the computer here?
Can you put it up?
You don't have it?
It should be on your, here. Page 105.
Is this the only one we have today?
105.
yes.
We got 2.
Okay, well, we have
Yeah.
two appointments.
Yeah.
Whose district is this?
I believe he lives up in yours. Mr. Tucker, go ahead.
All Turkey Road.
Yeah.
Where's that?
He runs the Highway 97 cleanup every time we have a 6-month run through up there. He does a great job. And now this recognizes him by putting him on the committee.
I think that's in. I think
Yeah?
that is in Brown.
All right. Back to you,
That's-
Mr. Tucker. You want to defer to Mr. Brazel?
Yes, sir. Go right
All
ahead.
right, go ahead, Russell.
No, it's fine.
You ought to get to
I'm okay to
He's a great guy.
to appoint him.
Yeah, he is a terror on trash, let me tell
That's
you.
a good thing. We'll take all the help we can get.
Yes,
Thank,
sir,
Thank
we
you,
do.
sir.
Now, which slot is he taking? Because we have 2 appointments there.
Mr. Hardis.
Oh,
Mr.
okay.
Hardis resigned.
Okay. I just want to make sure we're marking my paper correctly.
Okay. Other comments? Mr. Jones, how do you vote?
I cannot hear a thing. Everything's mumbled and jumbled. I really can't hear a thing y'all saying. Who made the motion for this individual?
I'll make the motion.
It's Mr.
I've already made it.
Mr. Tucker.
The motion was made by Mr. Tucker
Second by
and
Mr.
second by Mr. Gardner.
What is his name again? I missed the name.
Mr. Garcia lives up on 97 and does a great job up there.
Russell, you know him?
I don't, but looking at his application, I feel like he'll do us a great job, and like I said, all help's appreciated. So I think we're in good hands here.
I vote yes.
Okay, and others signify by raising your hand. And it's unanimous, and we'll send along a note to Mr. Garcia for all he's done and probably will do. With that, we have a second one is a reappointment of Mr. Strickland. I've got that on page. I got to catch up here. You messed up my computer there, Russell. I can't find anything.
107.
107.
Page 107 for you, Mr. Jones. Let me get it up for you, Russell. Thank you. Yeah, that's quite all right. Yeah, this is the Zoning Board of Appeals to reappoint Ben Strickland What district is this without
Looks
regard
like
to
it's
district?
Ben's district. Yeah, Ben district.
Ben's district, so it's nobody here from Ben's district yet. Can we have a motion to approve the reappointment of Mr. Strickland?
Yeah, so moved.
Okay, Russell, a second?
Second.
Second from Mr. Tucker. Discussion, Russell, anything at all?
He and I spoke some time
Good.
ago on the phone. Great guy, hard worker.
Yeah, very good.
Loves this community. I think, again, we're in good hands.
Thank you. Mr. Jones? Any
As
comments?
I said earlier in my comments at the beginning of the meeting, I think the boards and commissions should have waited till next month to do, but I will support this gentleman.
Very good. Other comments? I propose we move to a vote. Mr. Jones, how do you vote? Over to you, Jamie, to vote. Yes or no?
Yes.
Okay, very good. Others signify by raising your hand. And it's unanimous, Mary. Tell Ben, thank you very much. Maybe you can, Russell. Item number 3 is County Council meeting schedule at tab H. It's at page 108. It returns us effectively to 2 meetings a month. It's put on the agenda by Mr. Tucker. Would you like to make the motion?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chair. Make a motion to approve the 2023 schedule for council meetings.
Can we have a second?
Y'all don't have to meet now.
I'm not going to be here.
Do we have a second? You go ahead if you want.
Second.
Mr. Gardner gives a second discussion. Mr. Tucker is incoming counsel.
Yes, sir. I just want to say that we have to have a meeting schedule at least to get the new council off in January. And if they see fit to want to go back to one meeting after the budget, that's totally left up to them. They can amend this however they feel fit, but this is the schedule for 2023.
Mr. Gardner. Mr. Jones, I'll let you go next.
What is the schedule? I hear what he's made the motion, but tell me what the schedule is.
The schedule is the second and fourth Tuesday of each month at 5:30 p.m. in council chambers, except December. One meeting in December.
Mr. Tucker, if I may.
We go ahead and wait for Mr. Jones.
Sir, yeah, for the year.
Yeah, it's for the entire year, Jamie.
Yeah.
I'd like to make an amendment.
Could we just
amendment.
wait? Could we just wait till January?
Well, let's ask Mary. Mary, can we wait till January?
I would like to make an amendment.
We'll get right to you, Jimmy. We're getting an interpretation here. Go ahead.
I think you need to schedule the meetings certainly for January and probably the first one in February just because of scheduling ordinance readings and public hearings. Beyond that, you could do it next year.
All right. Jimmy, did you hear that from Ken?
Yes, I have an amendment.
Go ahead.
My amendment is that we schedule meetings for January and February just for the second and fourth Tuesdays of each month. Let the new council schedule the year out.
Okay, can we have a second?
Second.
We have a second. Jimmy, you want to lead the discussion?
Yeah, I mean, it's just common sense, guys. Why should we want to sit here and go ahead and set the schedule for the whole year for the new council coming in? You got a new quorum coming in. Yeah, I agree, and I understand that after all these 16 years sitting on council, that we have to schedule for the meetings next month. But let's just schedule January and February, the second and fourth, at 5:30, and then the new council can make their own schedule when they come on board in January.
Other discussion? Do you?
I completely agree. We need to take a vote on Jimmy's amendment. Gentlemen, I would.
He's got Brantley on the.
He's got Brantley.
If he's going to bring him on, that's great. But let me just say, I would appreciate if we could just wait till January and let everybody who's going to be the one serving have that input. If we could do that, I'd really appreciate it.
Okay. Other discussion? Okay, we've got a motion to amend to go to 2 meetings a month for January and February only. With that, I think we go to a vote. Mr. Jones, how do you vote?
Yes.
All those in favor signify by raising your hand. I'm going to abstain. We have Mr. Brazel.
It's 2 and 2 then.
Agreeing. Those voting for the other way, please raise your hand, which is for the year.
No or yes?
That's one. Mr. Tucker voted for the entire year. So my interpretation is the majority is 1 to 2 and 2 to 1 in favor of the first 2 months.
The amendment passes, correct?
How did Mr. Brazel vote?
He voted in favor.
In favor of the
2 to
amendment.
1.
Yes.
2 to 1.
And then we have abstention, so it's 2 to 2, right?
2 to 1.
We had 2
2 to 1.
abstain.
You got to pay attention
I
here.
abstain, as it does
I
not
abstain
affect
as well
me.
because I'm not going to be here.
2 to 1, so yes, the motion passes.
Yeah, motion passes, Mr. Jones. Now we move to amend the original amendment to move to a vote to approve the motion as amended by Mr. Jones to go to the first 2 meetings a month in January and February. Mr. Jones, how do you vote?
That's my amendment, correct?
Yes, your amendment.
Vote yes for 2 meetings for 2 months.
And all those in favor of 2 meetings a month for 2 months signify by raising your hand. And it's, say again?
Speak, can I finish talking, please?
And that's Mr. Brazel agrees. All those opposed signify by raising your hand.
Danny.
Mr. Tucker. What does he want? Go ahead.
Well, Mr. Julian, with all due respect, I'm trying to talk and you keep talking. I hadn't finished. I wish you would just slow down a little bit and let me say what I've got to say. And I don't mean that ugly. It's just getting aggravating because I'm saying things and nobody's hearing what I'm saying. So, bottom line is, I voted yes on the January and the February meetings from at 5:30, second and fourth Tuesdays of each month. That's what I was trying to get out, and I appreciate if everybody just slow down a little bit.
Yeah, it was heard and voted and approved. Jimmy, your motion is approved, and that's the schedule going forward. With that, we move to old business, which is an executive session. Mr. Tomlinson just called me, said his plane was delayed from South America, and now he's boarding the other one and cannot make the executive session. But let's see if we can contrive to get Mr. Jones in the executive session and these 4 men sitting here. With that, can we have a motion? Do you have a motion? Can we have a motion to go in executive session?
So moved.
And return to a possible vote? Can you make that motion?
So moved. I move
We
that
got
we
a
go to
first.
executive session.
Do we have a second? That's right. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second. Any discussion? Mr. Jones, any discussion?
No discussion.
Okay, we'll move into a vote. Mr. Jones, how do you vote?
Yes.
And others signify by your raising your hands. Very good. We are good. I'll need the legal advice and Joey if he's available. Thank you. That's fine. Second for Mr.
Hold on,
Gardner.
hold on, Mr. Chairman, we're not on. Okay, now we are. Make a motion to come out of executive session.
Mr. Tucker is second.
Second.
Mr. Gardner, we have Mr. Jones up? Yes. Good. We'll go to a vote.
Yes.
Mr. Jones, we're coming out of executive session. How do you vote?
Coming out of executive session, I vote yes to come out of executive
All
session.
right. Very good. All those in favor signify by raising your hand, and it's unanimous, and we're out of executive session right now. The item on the agenda, let me catch up here. We're moving around too much. Is an executive session. We met. Present in the room was Joey from Planning and Zoning, Mr. Templer, and Mr. Morgan, along with Mr. Gardner, Mr. Brazel, and Mr. Tucker and myself, and Mr. Jones calling in. No votes were taken, and all action will be taken out here. We're now back in session. Do we have a motion for this particular item?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Gardner.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that Kershaw County consents to the terms of the negotiated settlement agreement in case 2022-CP-28-00699, and that county council authorizes the county administrator and the county legal team to take all necessary actions to end this litigation.
Very good. Can we have a second?
He could not hear it.
Okay, you want to read that again?
I make a motion that Kershaw County consents to the terms of the negotiated settlement agreement in case 2022-CP-28-00699, and that county council authorizes the county administrator and the county legal team to take all necessary actions to end this litigation.
Very good. Can we have a second?
Second.
Second from Mr. Tucker. Thank you. Discussion. And we have Mr. Morgan here for expert advice. Mr. Gardner, any discussion?
I would defer to the attorney.
Okay. Do you want to discuss it very quickly? Mr. Morgan, bring the microphone over.
Yes, sir. Mr. Chairman and members of council, and just want to make sure that Mr. Jones can hear.
I can hear you good.
Okay, excellent. You have before you, as the council is aware, there was a lawsuit that was initiated back in September or August earlier this year involving a planning commission decision. There's been discussions and negotiated terms of agreement with regards to settling and ending the case. And the motion made by Mr. Gardner is for the county to consent to the terms of that negotiated settlement. No money will exchange hands, i.e. the county will not be paying any of the parties any funds, any type of settlement agreement, and all parties are going to agree to bear their costs, in other words, pay for their own attorney's fees.
All right. Mr. Gardner.
I think it's a good deal for the county.
Very good. Thank you.
Terrible deal for the county.
Mr. Jones.
No comment.
No comment from Mr. Jones. Other comments from the county council? Apparently there is none. Very good. I will tell you that at Mr. Jones' suggestion and unanimously approved by the county was a rewrite of the comprehensive plan and the ZLDR, and that is proceeding, which would impact zoning going forward in the future. So with that, we move to a vote. Mr. Jones, how do you vote?
I vote no.
All the others in favor signify by raising your hand. Mr. Tucker, Mr. Gardner, Mr. Burns, and opposed here is Mr. Brazel. Mr. Brazel and Mr. Jones are in the negative, Mary, so we had the vote and motion passes 3-2. Thank you very much. That ends the business. Thank you, Mr. Morgan. And with that, we move to Mr. Jones for council comments.
Yes, can y'all hear me?
Let's see if we can you turn it up a little bit?
Am I clear? Can you hear me, Danny? Hello?
Yeah, go ahead.
Can everybody hear me?
Yep.
Obviously not.
Yeah, go ahead now, Jim.
Everybody can hear me?
Yes, better.
Okay. Can anybody not hear me? Okay, so everybody can hear me. I just want to make a couple of comments right briefly here, okay? last meeting of the year for this county council, this administration. What I want to do is talk a little bit about the truth of past county councils that I've dealt with, including this one. One, a look at the disasters of the past, I think might help. Council has consistently lacked transparency and consistently pursued expensive ventures at the taxpayers' expense by closed doors deals. Spent almost $3 million on property at Liberty Hill we cannot use and has no public access. It's useless land. We cannot use it. We couldn't even probably give it away. And this was years ago. Sewer system has been consistently mismanaged by this county council. No question, you say we need land, you say we don't need land. We need expansion, we don't need expansion. There's not a consistent message. I'm getting mixed messages all the time. Economic development spent far more new money taken in the past 12 years than we have improved. And I want to talk about years ago with another county council, Kershaw Health was a disaster before it was taken over by MUSC. The previous hospital was a disaster. Luckily, MUSC has it now. The present hospital would not have existed without my exposing the previous hospital's lavish spendings. This council has also issued back a $17.2 million economic development bond and had a $17 million economic development plan that was a fiasco and a failure. After paying interest for years, it was paid off at the taxpayer's expense. Council voted to give a huge tax giveaway for a private boutique hotel. That was the most stupid thing I've ever heard in my life. Huge tax giveaway to support a failed private business. Also, bought land in the floodplain that kept us from completing existing projects like West Rotary Complex, Larry Dovey's complex, still incompleted, that could have been ready for rec ball, travel ball tournaments. But instead, we bought and built an expensive park that floods and is less than 1 mile from another public park in the River City of Camden. I know Riverwalk in Columbia, Lexington, they all have a river park. Well, we got 2 river parks. You know, and this, going back, the site of ATEC and CCTC and Economic Development Office is not good. They had to build on a new road at a huge expense to use that site. Site preparation was probably $200,000 an acre. Still have excess issues and no visibility. You know, an expert on soils, Dr. Boykin, came to council and told council that the site was bad, but council ignored him and did it anyway. And I was on there fighting that battle with Mr. Banner Boykin. We have consistently built spec buildings, economic spec buildings that have always lost money. We lost $450,000 on one when I first came on county council. We've lost money on this existing one we've got going now. Intentionally wasted, I feel, taxpayers' money on failed economic development buildings. I opposed all of this and got slammed by other council members who were totally out of touch with the people and with reality. In January, this council will get a real and begin to, I think we'll get real and begin to serve the people of Kershaw County. I'm looking forward to it. And I just want to bring up a few things from the past. You know, it got so vicious about the sewer at one time that myself, along with Randy Bowers and my dear long friend Frank Miller Jr., we were accused of sabotaging the sewer plant. Well, I believe that the county administration was arrested and taken to jail, not Jimmy Jones. And that's how ugly it got. So, folks, I'll tell you what, we're gonna work together come January. We're gonna make some things happen. And I think that's about all I got to say.
Oh, Merry Christmas, Jimmy. Over to you, Mr. Tucker.
Well, first thing I'm going to say out of my mouth is I disagree with everything Mr. Jones just said. That makes me feel better. Want to wish everyone a Merry Christmas to all the citizens that's watching and will watch later on, and want to thank Kershaw County employees and Mr. Danny Templer as well for getting us through another good year. We appreciate all that you do. I've got a couple things here of joy that I would like to do before we depart our last meeting for 2022. And I would like to just start off by telling Ms. Mary Siegler, I think Mr. Jeff Maddox, if he ever had a good speech, it was today. And he was dead on. I thank you for all the years that you've given Kershaw County, for all the years you've given me as a council member, and for always being Janie on the spot. You take care of 7 different personalities, minds, hearts, and it's a tough balance, but somehow you seem to make it work, and you're good at it. And we're gonna miss you dearly. But that doesn't mean I don't know where you live. I'll come tapping on your door just so I can say hello. But Godspeed to you. I wish you nothing but well. Enjoy the time. Try not to. I don't think I have to tell you this twice to think about this place. But always keep Kershaw County at your heart. Thank you, Ms. Mary. I go to the gentleman that's sitting next to me, Mr. Tom Gardner. You've been here for 12 years. That's over a decade, my friend. And no, as some like to say up here, we didn't 100% agree on everything. We're not supposed to. We're 2 different minds, 2 different people. But I appreciate your hard work and your input and all that you had to bring to the table, your finance background, your business background that you offered this county through your 12 years. And I know, just like I have, and many of us have up here, you took a lot of lumps and bruises, but you held strong on your convictions. And that's meaningful. I mean, that's all you have at the end of the day is what you believe in and best serve the people. So I say to you, Godspeed as well. I wish you and your family nothing but success moving forward and golf time for you, as long as Miss Janice don't hit you upside the head with the golf clubs for going too much. But thank you, and it's been a pleasure and an honor serving next to you. Chairman Burns, 8 years. 8 years. And I'm going to pause for a minute because you served on so many different boards and committees and things that you allowed yourself to get out there to be a part of Kershaw County for all the citizens. I don't care what was going on. You were like a clone guy. You popped up everywhere. And I don't know how you do it, not to say anything about your age, but you're amazing for what you're able to do that I don't see younger folks do. I'm going to put it like that. And we appreciate it. So I'm going to pause for a minute because I want to recognize Santee Lynch's Regional Council of Government's director, Mr. Dennis Cyphers. I want him to come up for just a minute and do a presentation because this is one of the boards that you served on, and you served on very well with a lot of grace, patience, and guidance and input. Mr. Dennis?
Thank you, Councilman Tucker, for yielding this segment of your time to me, Mr. Chairman, council members. My name is Dennis Cyphers, as Councilman Tucker stated, and I currently serve as the Executive Director of the Santee Lynch's Council of Governments. I join you this morning to publicly acknowledge Chairman Burns' service to our organization. Much in line with the mission and vision of Kershaw County, the Council of Governments aspires to create partnerships for the sole purpose of improving the quality of life for our citizens. Santee Lynch's COG advocates regionally and locally, not only Kershaw County, but for Sumter, Lee, and Clarendon counties as well. As a member of the COG, Mr. Burns has been an instrumental part of numerous projects that have and will continue to help our region advance in transportation, economic development, and the workforce arenas. These projects and programs, I assure you, too lengthy to list, have championed our communities and made positive impacts to thousands upon thousands of residents. I assure everyone here that the diligence and precision guidance offered by Mr. Burns has been fully embraced, and with my help along with staff will become the standard under which we operate. We are
Amen.
truly grateful to you, Chairman Burns, who has volunteered himself to helping guide into Santee Lynch's Council of Governments, dedicating significant time and energy to help chart our past, present, and future. Sir, we thank you for your contributions that directly benefit not just Kershaw County, but an entire region. And with that being said, I would like to present you with this plaque commemorating our thanks for time served on the COG board.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman Burns.
You guys want to come up front and have a picture or anything? Or?
Let's do that, Russell.
Yeah.
Ms. Cypress, thank you so very much. And Chairman Burns, I just want to say I wish you nothing but the best, you and your family. That concludes my report. Thank you.
Mr. Gardner.
Yep, last time here, so I can talk as long as I want to. Won't take long.
No, he's got to go.
No, I'd just like to thank the fine folks at District 6 who have allowed me the privilege of serving them for 12 years. It's been a quick 12 years. I can remember 12 years ago when I decided to run. But it has been a privilege, and I think that we've done a lot of good things here. I'd like to thank all the councilmen that I've served with through those 12 years, and appreciate their support. I'd like to thank my family. Mary, thank you. You're the glue that sticks this group together, I think,
Amen.
and you will sorely be missed. Chairman Burns, thank you for your service. And Godspeed to the upcoming council, and good luck. And it's been a pleasure for me. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Brosnan.
So I will try to be quick, but yet I would also like to thank everyone for their service. As we all recognize, and everyone who watches and pays any attention recognizes, we don't all get along, and that's okay. I would also extend my thanks to Mr. Gardner and Mr. Burns for what they've done. Politics is rough. You do take a lot of lumps, and people agree and people disagree on certain topics. Miss Mary, thank you for being here for me as I was getting broken in as a new member, and I do mean broken in. It's a completely different world when you step into the public light, even on a small scale. So thank you for being a listening ear and a guiding light. You're a very sweet lady, and you will be sorely missed. I'd also like to extend those same farewells to Councilman Connell. He'll now be serving for us at the State House, and he's no longer here. He's just vanished. So he's in Columbia working for Kershaw County, and it was a pleasure working with him. And you take a lot away from working with others and friendships that you develop. I want to thank our attorney, Tommy Morgan, for what he does. Things that we agree and disagree on. I know everybody's heart is in the right place for Kershaw County at the end of the day. We've got some frustrating problems that are happening. Severe overdevelopment. All of a sudden, all of my friends and neighbors are constantly talking to me about how Kershaw County's getting punched in the mouth with overdevelopment. And I'll say this, the good comes with the bad. Okay, so it's great that we have these economic development wins, but I promise you it's going to put more roads, more cars on the road, and more homes in town. So we are working on standards, our building standards. Our ZLDR is being revised. I would urge Joey, if we could, to get that firm to work a little faster. We want to see a good-looking Kershaw County, right? We want to see a better-looking Kershaw County. We don't want to see our standards going down. We don't want to see our quality of homes being built going down. We don't want to see high-density development. We're fighting hard against certain things. We want to see quality homes built in Kershaw County. We want quality jobs for the people of Kershaw County. That's what we want, and that's what we need, and that's what we are striving for. And unfortunately, the government moves at a snail's pace, and I don't think it's any one particular person's fault. I think that's just the way it is. But I urge you, sir, if there's anything we can do to move the firm forward that we've hired on this rewriting of the ZLDR, please do all you can for us. We're fighting for that. We're going to continue to fight for that. And that concludes my remarks. Thank you so much.
And I'll close it out. As usual, as the chairman, and normally the person who speaks first is the person who leads in the prayer and the national Pledge of Allegiance. In this case, I was first, as the last 8 years, in Mr. Jones's absence in that role. I have some good news for you. Economic development, because of our investment in ourselves, others are investing in us, and CSSX, through the work of Jeff Burgess and Mr. Templer, has declared us as a highly favorable mega site, and work continues on its marketability. Thank you, Jeff. Well done. I'd like to also say that I want to say to Mr. Gardner, in the spirit of the Revolutionary War, what the cavalry officers wore, and I was a cavalry officer for 35 years, as my father and my grandfather before that, they wore what was called a gorget, and French always waste a couple of syllables and when they pronounce things, but the gorget is wear it on the gorge, which is known as the neck, and prevents sword thrust against the neck. But after the war, the Revolutionary War was over, as I gave to Vic Carpenter, this was worn as a badge of honor for those who served. And you certainly did, Mr. Gardner. And on here I have put a small list, and they ran out of room, of the things that you did in the 8 years I served with you. Just example, you saved the hospital, you saved EMS, you saved the watershed, you got sewer straightened out, you devoted a budget appropriately to public safety and fire and EMS and 911, and all those people are well paid to do their dangerous duties. We got SROs in every school. You cut the budget debt in half. We've got the joint use campus down at WTC in place, along with KCSD. We got the sewer tax removed, and we fixed it today with the infrastructure loan that we're going to take, thanks to Mr. Templar and the team. We've got the Rev War thing moving ahead, which is tremendously helpful to our county. Economic development has got a solid base with sites that can be developed with no extra millage added to do those things. It's totally wrong. Those investments were done without any millage increase. We invested in ourselves, and now the FILO issue is reversed, and you, Russell, will be the beneficiary in the new budget coming up, because FILO will be increasing not this fiscal year, but the following. The downtrend in jobs has been reversed. That's the good news, Russell. The bad news is people want to come to this county. We got the lowest taxes, the lowest crime, the best schools in the Midlands, and that's why people come here. So now we have to deal with growth. We've got some things that you detailed, Mr. Brazel, such as the ZLDR and the comp plan that can be revised and re-energized. We've got impact fee studies going on and things of that nature, which will allow you to do that. But the jobs are coming because Kershaw County is the most attractive county in the Midlands. We're the only one to include Richland and Lexington that is growing. That's the bad news and the good news. And for the new council, I wish you Godspeed on that. And our airport looks pretty good too, thanks to the Boy Scouts, right, Danny? Yeah. And so I like to give you this gorget, and you don't have to wear it. Thank you very much, Tom.
You might need a longer room.
And then I'm going to close out by very quickly saying thanks for the opportunity to serve. Serve is in the Burns family bloodline since we came here in 1782. We fought in every war just about in every century that the United States has ever fought. I've got 2 kids in the military now, and they're where I can't tell you right now, somewhere in Europe. So that is a part of my life. And we have been trained from our Christian upbringing that those who will be first must first be the servant of all. I hope I can say that I've done my best and failed where I did. I take the criticism, but I've served in the Army all over the world in 32 different countries and several different shooting environments. And my family, back to the beginning of the last century, has served on city and county governments and volunteered on various things because it's a part of our lives. But I just want to tell you, and I hope my wife doesn't forget that I haven't forgotten her. The family serves as surely as does the soldier, and the family serves as surely does the elected officials. And here's Russell, got his son out there. Good to see you again, young fella. But there are things that the family wants to do that are being put aside because we have to be here, with 4 of us at least in this seat. Russell, thanks for remaining here. Okay? But for the record, y'all tell Miss Ruth Ann that I mentioned her in these remarks because of the phone calls and the missed meetings and the missed birthdays and the missed anniversaries and the midnight trips back to Washington so I could close out my business requirements after missing a county council. Why do we do this? Why? Because we love this county and we share a vision, as Russell said. It's a great place to live, to work, to have fun, to worship and raise our families. And for that, there is no amount of money in the world you could pay this group to do the hard work they do. But you can't be against something and be for it. If you get up here and make the hard choices, you vote against budgets and fire and public safety and pay in schools and say you're for something, you're not. When you vote against something very dear to all of our hearts, the revolution, then you have a problem. So I would just tell you, to the incoming team, you've got a budget that's solid, it's balanced. The audit said it was effective, it was in the black, and it's fair. And it reduces budgets debt by 50%. So in closing, I want to thank Danny and the staff. It's been a great ride, a hell of a ride. Sometimes it's without a saddle, and very often the horse went in another direction. But I charge you and the employees to live up to the trust that I and all of us have in you by giving this county value for money for the budgets that we pass.
That's Indian style with no sign.
So I wish you a Merry Christmas, and the whole county a Merry Christmas. Over to you, Mr. Templer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of council. In my briefing tonight, I just want to share some really good news that the Santee Lynch's COG was able to work with us at our fire service to secure a community development block grant for $499,994 for the purchase of a new fire truck for up in the Bethune Fire District. That's just amazing news. It's just a testament to what Will and his team does down there. They stay hungry. They're looking for opportunities to fund things, fund their needs down there with outside revenue sources, and this is a prime example. So, also the election dates for Kershaw County District 3 special elections are out. We'll push those out early and often. It is going to, the special election will take place March 28, 2023. Runoff, if needed, April 11th, 2023. Primary, if needed, January 24, 2023. Primary runoff, if needed, February 7, 2023. So, again, we'll push this out early and often. If anyone has any questions, please let us know. Reach out to the voter registration over there with John Kaufman and his team. Also, as it relates to the audit, I can't speak highly enough about Sandra and her team, Tyler. To have an audit with no findings is no surprise anymore.
That's amazing.
They've raised the bar, so and they do a great job. And sometimes that's why things take a long time to happen, because of our procurement process and the transparency that goes along with it. So it is frustrating to me, but I understand. But it pays off when Mark Wood comes in here and addresses the council and says, yeah, we have a healthy financial situation with no findings. That's
Absolutely.
that juice is worth the squeeze there. So, and gentlemen, it's been an honor to work with y'all. I've learned a lot from each and every one of you, as I have in councilmen in the past and the council coming up. But y'all were true servants. You've called me with constituent issues, and you were passionate about getting it handled. So for that, I thank you, and it's just been an honor and a pleasure to work with y'all, and I wish you the absolute best. The beauty of it is we live in a small community, so we'll bump into each other. So we'll see you soon.
Very good. Tommy.
Yes, sir. John, on behalf of myself and Mr. Ken DeBose, we would like to express our appreciation for working with Ms. Siegler, yourself, Mr. Burns, and yourself, Mr. Gardner. We have enjoyed our time trying to do what we can to provide the best legal advice that we can to the county, understanding sometimes it's not always well received. And that's understandable because these are hard questions that y'all have to deal with, and sometimes the answers are not necessarily what we want to hear. But we have enjoyed working with all of you throughout these years, and so we just wanted to express that. Apart from that, Mr. Chairman, no further legal briefing.
Thank you very much. A motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn, Mr. Chairman.
A second?
Second.
Very good. Any discussion? Seeing there is none. Mr. Jones, how do you vote?
Close the meeting.
Very good. All those in favor signify. And we are adjourned. Merry Christmas.